5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Massive settle for first place, of course. Anybody that had settled for less is crackers.
Free waiting again for the cross from Price. Stapleton. Oh, that Rice in there. Oh, Brady won it beautifully. Look at that! Oh, look at that! What a goal by Brady! Oh, a marvellous goal! Designed for the big occasion and taken with all the aplomb of a great player.
Positive in these early minutes of the second half. Bergkamp dragging the ball back. Still Bergkamp. Well, it's an exquisite goal from a player who is really in peak form at the moment. The final season at Roker Park, but there won't have been many better goals scored down the years on this ground than the one from Dennis Bergkamp here for Arsenal.
Smith, Dixon, acrobatics, but it comes for Smith. It's a goal for Arsenal. Alan Smith, a super strike for the Gunners. A mistake in the Palmer defence, and very heavily punished indeed. They've looked second best so far, but my goodness, they're in the lead. There was the mistake. There's Smith on his chest. Full mark. Left foot volley, just nicked in off the post, and Arsenal in the lead. O'Leary with the kick. Deep one. Quinn hoping to get on the end of it. It comes for Allinson. Driven first time. It might go anywhere. Rocastle! Arsenal are through to Wembley. Down and injured. Arsenal come streaming forward now in surely what will be their last attack. A good ball by Dixon, finding Smith. For Thomas, charging through the midfield. Thomas, it's up for grabs now. Thomas, right at the end. An unbelievable climax to the league season. Well into injury time, the Liverpool players are down absolutely abject.
All right, hi Diesel, how are you, man? How's it going?
Wazza! I love calling you that. I don't know why. Yeah, all good, thanks, mate. Makes a nice change, me being on your channel for a change.
Oh, exactly. And thank you so much for coming on.
No, anytime, mate. Thanks for the invite.
No, it's absolutely fine. And because what I want to do today is I want to talk to you about your life as a football fan, how it all started, and then just your views about different bits and bobs and help promote your channel as well. That being said, I think most of the people who subscribe to my channel already subscribe to yours.
Let's hope.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you loads of questions, and then we'll see how it goes from there, really.
Yeah, go on, mate. Yeah, ask away.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, heart's going. I don't know why, but yeah, go on.
Right, okay. So, Diesel, I want to take you right back to the beginning, right when everything started for you. So, where were you born and brought up, Diesel?
So, I was born in London Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first 8 years, I lived in Islington, Barnsbury Road.
Wow.
That's hence how I became an Arsenal fan. And obviously, when when I was 8 years of age, we moved from Islington to Mile End.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there for I lived there for about 6-7 years. Then we moved to East London, Barking. And been there ever since. So, but yeah, obviously born and bred Islington, mate, if I'm honest. So, yeah, literally down the road from Highbury.
Wow. So I know a few people that lived in and around the ground.
Yeah.
You're about the fourth one now. I used to work with a fella who was, and he come from an Irish family, and he's mad Arsenal. Absolute mental Arsenal. And then a really good friend of mine, another one I work with, she used to live a couple of roads from the ground, and yeah, it's unbelievable. So, do you live? Did you ever live near Barking Tube Station, mate?
No, it was more Upney.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, but obviously no one's really heard of Upney, so you just say Barking.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's an horrible place now to live. But obviously when we moved there years ago, it was considered, you know, if you said you was moving to Barking, you was considered a snob. But you know, like, but literally, you know, believe it or not, it was a nice place to you know, to live at one point. And obviously over the years, it's just been ruined now, and it's just horrible now, mate. So yeah, luckily I'm not there anymore.
I used to have a mate who lived out there, another work mate, and it was going downhill then. This was in about 2011, 2012, something like that.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I used to find Barking Tube Station a bit mental, to be honest. So
yeah, it's not the kind of place you want to walk around at night, mate, if I'm honest. Unless obviously you're from there and you know people there, sort of thing, you know. But yeah, it's what it is, mate. I never had any grief there. I was quite lucky, really, because I sort of knew everyone. You know, I went to school around there, and obviously you get to know who's who, like who the families are in the area, that sort of thing. So, and I'm quite a personable bloke, as you can probably tell by the streams I do. You know, I'm not shy. So, yeah, I was all right, luckily enough. But yeah, at the same time, mate, it's, you know.
Because the thing is, I can imagine you being a sort of bloke who would be able to talk himself out of anything. If anything did come up on top, that you'd be able to talk your way out of it.
Mate, do you know what? Do you know what? I'll be honest, I've always been that way, mate. You know, I'm quite the salesman. But yeah, you know, obviously I'm not one for star signs, so I don't really believe in all that. But you know, if I'm going to go on what people tell me, you know, I am what you call a typical Leo. You know, outgoing, bubbly, and obviously, you know, and you know, I'm a fair sized bloke as well, and yeah, look, you know, there are times where you know you can't talk yourself out, and you just got to, you know, go head on and, you know, see how you do. No, you do. If we're being honest, mate. But you know, you know, there are times, obviously, you talk yourself out, and it helps with anything. It helps with, you know, it helps with the birds as well. You know what I'm like, mate. I make no secret of it. You know, I'm a bit of a lad. So yeah, I've always been good with the mouth. You know what I mean? So
good man.
Yeah.
So how old were you when your interest in football started, Diesel?
Mate, I was about. So what it was, right? So obviously, yeah. So for the first 8 years, Barnsbury Road, Islington, and I used to go to a school called Thornhill, which was literally 5 minutes down the road from where we live. And obviously, so it's really weird, right? Because I'm not one who's got a good memory. I really don't. My memory is terrible. But I remember things I shouldn't, and the things I should, I don't. It's really weird, right? But I do remember that school. I used to love that school, and obviously, you know, so obviously, you know, lunchtime as you do, you know, you're playing football, you know, with your mates and all that, and a lot. Funnily enough, a lot of the from what I can remember, a lot of my friends in that school were actually Man United, United fans. So I think for about a week, I think I was United, right? And then we had a new boy join us called Eric, yeah, and obviously me and him became like best mates, and he was Arsenal. And so yeah, we just sort of, used to imitate the Arsenal players whenever we was in the playground playing football. So obviously I quickly changed my allegiance from United to Arsenal. And ever since then, mate, it's always been that way. And my dad's a West Ham fan. Really weird. He's got a soft spot for Arsenal, but all his friends were West Ham, so he'd always go with his friends to the football, and it was always over Upton Park. So, but obviously I was Arsenal, and the rest of the family were Arsenal. So I took an interest in it, and because we were so local and it was down the road. For a birthday present, my dad took me to my very first game. And I was excited to go. Like when you watch it on telly, you're like, oh, God, the atmosphere. I wonder what it's like. And, to actually be there and hear that crowd and that roar and this, that, the other. So, yeah, he took me. And ever since, he took me to, excuse me. My throat is killing me.
It's all right.
Oh, dear. Back then, obviously, it would have been Highbury. So, yeah, he took me for the first time, mate. And from that first time, I was hooked.
Yeah, same here. I was talking last night on Del Boy's channel about Arsenal. And I said, like, back in the day, there was something magical about that club.
Yeah.
About the ground. Sadly, it's not like that anymore. And I was kicking off about it. But, yeah, I can completely understand what you mean, because it was like that when I first went as well. I just loved all the smells, the noise, all the people. I just thought it was incredible,
Yeah.
So you started off, you were a United fan for a little bit, then you changed to Arsenal, and you at that point you were living near Arsenal. So how was that, like supporting a team that was so close by, or in the community, so to speak? How was that for you, Diesel?
Yeah, it was sort of natural, really, mate. It was just a matter of time before you become if you're into football, if you like football as a kid, because of that area, it's just a matter of time before you follow the Arsenal. It's Islington. I remember we used to, every weekend, me and the parents, my sister, we'd obviously, walk through Chapel Market. My dad used to work on the market. I used to work with him most weekends. And obviously walking through the market, it's just a sea of Arsenal shirts. It's just people in Arsenal gear. Islington, it was all Arsenal. I don't know what it's like now. Back then, wherever you went, it was Arsenal. I remember my dad used to tell me there used to be a nightclub. I don't think it's obviously not there anymore. They used to have a nightclub in Islington called Ra-Ra's. I think the older generation, probably Kenny and Jez, would probably, remember that. But yeah, it was a club called Ra-Ra's, and that's where a lot of the Arsenal players used to go after the game. Because back then, you could go out for a few drinks and not have a 20-strong entourage around you, and they would actually talk to the fans. They'd even buy you a drink, or you buy them one, and they were just down to earth people who would actually hold a conversation with you. Yeah. Obviously, them days are gone now, but yeah, honestly, mate, Islington, it was just all, especially down my road, Barnsbury Road. Just Arsenal, the flags and all that sort of stuff, mate. It's just a matter of time. And anyone who knows Barnsbury Road, opposite, you've got a big park. You've got Barnsbury Park. So, you literally cross the road and, you're there. And obviously over there, you'd see all the kids in Arsenal gear and all the clobber as well. You just couldn't escape it, Wes. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's how it was, mate. And, it's weird. I think it's different now, obviously, with kids. Kids tend to follow players now rather than clubs, right? But I think back then, the unwritten rule was really, you'd always support your local team. So if you was in the area, and obviously, whichever team was in that area down the road, the stadium, you'd follow them, wouldn't you? So yeah, it's more or less how it was, mate.
See, I think that business about always support your local. I don't know. My dad always used to say that to me, and he was from north of Edinburgh in Scotland, a place called Dunfermline, and he had that attitude as well. Support your local. You've got to support your local. And I've heard John Lydon say it as well. John Lydon, Sex Pistols singer.
Yeah.
He's
a big Arsenal fan. Yeah, massive.
That's right. And he always says it. Support your local. You know.
Yeah, do you know what I think it was, mate? Because I think back then there was a massive emphasis on community, wasn't there?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's probably why, you know, it was sort of everyone, you know, in the same area, everyone sticks together, you know.
Yeah.
And I think now it's I say this all the time on, you know, my channel, Warren, all the things I used to love about life, they're slowly sinking away, you know. I would, if I could go back 20, 30 years, I would do it like that. But yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, it was more community back then. I think now it's just, you know, each to their own. It's all individuals now. Whereas I think back then it was a case of you're from here, you live here, you support the team down the road, end of, you know. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was one of the things I liked about it. Like going to the ground, there was this sense of community in the crowd. People would look after each other, and do you know what I mean? And it's just different. I mean,
yeah,
I've been back. I've got no intention of going again to the Emirates. I just don't like it. It's not for me. It's not Highbury. I loved Highbury, man. It really hurts me, like seeing like how it's changed. I just don't like it, mate. Maybe I'm too old and too old school, but it's not for me.
No. Mate, I know a lot of people who share that opinion. I'm the same as you, mate. I'll take Highbury over the Emirates any day of the week. I think the only thing about the Emirates, look, it's, you know, to look at, you know, I would say it's aesthetically pleasing to look at. It's nice, you know, and I can understand to an extent, you know, why we had to leave and move there, you know, obviously, you know, from a financial point of view, because let's not forget, football's not a sport anymore. It's now a business, right? So, you know, obviously from what we were told, you know, we need to move to a bigger stadium, which can hold more fans, which will create more money, which means we can buy better players, which means we can win trophies, which means this, which means that, you know, and as fans, you sort of hear that and think, oh, okay, well, I kind of get it then. But yeah, Highbury was magical, mate. You know, I'll never forget doing the Arsenal tour of Highbury. Like my dad took me, right? And obviously we'd done the tour, and there was a player who we caught in the shower, and he didn't come out until we'd all gone. And later on, I found out he was actually Steve Bold. Funnily enough, yeah, honestly, yeah, it was Steve Bold. But yeah, and then obviously as we left, we see George Graham walking down the steps, because you know, there were steps right outside the main door.
Yeah.
Walking down the steps, and obviously I'm Dad. So there's me. I'm buzzing. Dad actually sort of called out to George and said, "Look, would you mind having a picture done with me, boy?" And George, nice as anything. You know, it wasn't just me. There was a few others. He just took pictures. He weren't one of them. Oh, you know, speak to my eight or whatever. No. You know, and we had a picture. I'm trying to find that picture. But yeah, we had our picture taken, mate. And just George Graham, just for me, he had this aura. I don't know what it was. And as much as I bash Arsene Wenger, for me, even Wenger had it. You know, you've got certain managers who just have this aura. They've got something about them where you think, oh, my God, when you're in their presence, you feel a bit, oh, God, it's George. Oh, my God, it's Arsene. You know, I've never met Arsene Wenger, obviously, but I do believe he's got an aura. But, yeah, George Graham for me, you know, wow.
I've heard stories about how when he used to walk in the dressing room, the place just goes silent.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And because of his aura.
It was that, but he was highly respected, Warren, you know. And,
yeah.
You know, he was a proper manager. He was ex-Arsenal, you know, he was an Arsenal legend, and you know, but he ruled with an iron fist. You know, you got to remember those days it was men. They weren't boys like how we see today. it was men back then. You know, if you needed a bollocking, you know, you got a bollocking. There was no, don't talk to me, speak to my agent. There was none of that. You know, you were a man, so you were treated like a man, you know. And, you know, I've heard Kevin Campbell, Ian Wright, all of them. They've all said it about George, you know. Like, when he speaks, you bloody well listen. Because if you don't, you don't even want to think about what happens if you don't. You know, so, and if George don't get you, Tony will. You know, so it was, yeah, this is what I'm saying. You know, that's what I'm used to growing up. And you know, and a lot of the people who watch us.
Diesel, when you were living around the ground, when they were playing at home and you weren't going to the game, could you hear them roaring from your house?
Nah, not from where I was, Barnsbury. No.
But, so what was it when you said that, like, after a while you moved from Islington area down to East London?
Yeah.
So what was it like growing up in East London, being an Arsenal fan for you?
No, it was all right, mate. I say this all the time. Arsenal, you know, when I say it, a lot of Arsenal fans don't realise just how big of a club we are. You know, everywhere I've lived, Warren, everywhere I've been, you know, I'm surrounded by so many Arsenal. There are so many Arsenal fans around, especially in London, especially in East London. You know, there are, you know, so yeah, you know, you could wear your shirt, and you know, there was never got any trouble or comments or anything like that. The likelihood is you were mixing with a lot of Arsenal fans anyway. You know, there's a lot of Arsenal fans. There's always been a lot of Man United, you know, which is obviously why they get the nickname, you know, the Cockney Reds and all that. I just don't look at them as true Man United fans, if I'm honest, but that's just me. But yeah, there's always you're always surrounded by Arsenal fans, mate. So yeah, and back then, don't forget, you said you was an Arsenal fan. You could say it with chest and say it with pride. Do you know what I'm saying? And when you said you was Arsenal, no one could really come back at you and say anything. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, yeah, instant respect.
Yeah, you didn't get any grief or anything from West Ham?
No. Funnily enough, I've always said this: West Ham and Arsenal actually get on. Like we've never had beef with each other. Honestly, it's mad. We do kind of get on, but then we've got a lot in common. We both hate Chelsea. We both hate Spurs. You know, it's honestly, if you look at London clubs, Arsenal and West Ham have always been okay, not best, but okay with each other. It's never really been what you call a war, you know. But I'll tell you what, if we went into battle with either Tottenham or Chelsea, I'm telling you now, West Ham would back us. You know, so
it's funny you should say that, because years ago, in the late 80s, I was on the North Bank for this home game with one of my mates. Halfway through the game, this fella started talking to me, and this geezer looked proper fucking hardcore, right? And he started chatting to me about the game. And then he said, listen, mate, he said, you're a top fella. I've enjoyed chatting to you. He said, I'm not an Arsenal fan. I'm West Ham. I'm from the ICF. We're fighting Millwall in a few days. I'd love it if you and your mates could come and give us an hand. I thought, fucking hell, that's the last thing I need. I said, mate, thank you so much for your comments and all the rest of it. But to be honest with you, I'm not really into that. I said, there's fellas, and I pointed to another part of the ground where I knew where a lot of the firms sat.
Yeah.
I said to him, if you try and get over there, I'm sure a few of them will want to come and help you. I said, but for me, I'm not really into that. Carry on. And he said, fair enough, mate. He said, thank you for being honest with me up front. And that was it. But fucking hell, mate, when he was coming out of that, I was just thinking, Jesus Christ, how am I going to get out of this without getting my head kicked in?
Mate, honestly, I'll tell you. You know what, right? I think I've said this on one of my streams as well. I've got a lot of friends who are West Ham, and I've always said the only time I will go with them to a West Ham game is the next time West Ham play Millwall. When they play Millwall, if they do, I'm sure they will at some point. You know, that is the game where I'm like, because I know for a fact I'll get an invite. I will definitely go to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely go to that. Yeah, I can't stand Millwall. I've
been there a few times, man. Millwall is not a place you want to go to. It's terrifying.
Yeah, no, I've been there, mate. It's not, but something like that, you couldn't say it. You'd have to, wouldn't you? You'd have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just goes to show, mate. See, like what you said there. It's West Ham and Arsenal. They've always had this little bit of a mutual respect sort of thing, So, and I've always you've opened, you've heard me say this openly, whenever I do like my stream, I've always had a soft spot for West Ham. I do.
Too.
A lot of people a lot of family West Ham. My dad's West Ham, and always been in, nice company with West Ham fans. Never had any grief or whatever. And but I think growing up in East London as well, you do get, obviously Arsenal's your first love, but you do have an appreciation for the West Ham. So it's what you call it's for me. It's like the working men's club, isn't it? It's one of them. Yeah.
So, can you remember like I know you said about like going to your first game with your dad. He took you for a birthday treat and whatnot. Can you remember much about it, Diesel? That game?
Yeah, do you know what? It's funny. I asked him about this because obviously I'm doing this with you, and I think the first game. I mean, look, I found this. I thought I'd show you. That was my old season ticket.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What year was that, Diesel?
Christ.
Because the green. I can't see it.
Okay, it's the 93-94 season.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Family enclosure, mate. And this is what they used to look like. Do you remember the stubs? Look,
yeah. Because I used to have one of those in the late 80s. Like, I think it was 87, 88, something like that. I had mine.
Yeah.
It was about 70 quid at then. You'd be lucky to be able to get a ticket for one game now for that.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
I think the first game he took me to, mate, I think we was at home to Derby.
Right.
Derby County. It was actually Boxing Day, mate. So I think it was sort of a birthday, Christmas present rolled into one. It was Boxing Day. So it was the 26th December. It was 1990. We beat Derby 3-0. Alan Smith scored 2, Smudger scored 2, and Merson scored 1.
Wow.
But my memory of that, mate, if I'm honest with you, walking to the. So what we would do, we would obviously where we lived in Islington, right? So he would park the car. There was sort of garages on a road called Richmond Crescent. So yeah, we parked there, and then obviously it's a bit of a walk, or we'd get a bus or something. I mean, in them days, a bus was cheap anyway. But yeah, we'd somehow, get to the stadium. But mate, when you turn onto Avenel Road and then you're walking, and then that smell of hot dogs and burgers and mate, I swear to God, the onions and all that, and that's where I was like, oh my God, wow. It's one of them things, I kept asking my dad, like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Like, do you know you're going? And like, my dad's like, yeah, just follow the crowd. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you can't get lost, you just follow the swarms of people.
Yeah.
It was absolutely rammed. And as a kid, I'm thinking, my God, if obviously he was holding my hand, I was like, if I lose his hand, the chances are he's never going to find me again because there's so many people here. But mate, obviously, yeah, it was that's the one thing I will never forget. It was the smell of the burger stands, the stalls and the burger vans and the hot dogs and the onions, and I'll never forget that. Never forget that. That's when Christ, I'm at a football match. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, it was mad. And then you had all those fellas as well selling scarves and flags and all sorts of stuff.
Always got a program. I think.
Yeah, there was a fella who had a stall and he was selling old programs and programs from back in the day and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it was great. you know.
It was routine for us. Every time we'd go, we'd always get a program, you know, for the game. And back then, mate, what were they? What, a couple of quid, if that?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. But the thing is, as well, so that obviously that was my first game, and obviously from then on, I got a bug for it. And he took me a few times, and obviously that's when he got me my season ticket, right? The thing is, I could only go in on my own. He for whatever reason, he couldn't get anything for him. So what he would do, so like when you got good parents, right? So he would take me. I'd go in on my own, go up, you know, go to my seat, and obviously watch the game. And he would hang around outside, or go and get something to eat or whatever. And then, you know, the plan was when the game's finished, I come straight down, walk out, you know, come out, and he's right there across the road. I'd have to cross the road and see him. I mean, I could never do that with my son now. I mean, my boy's 11. We're just not in that day and age now. There's you know, but yeah, back then, obviously, you know, it was sort of the done thing to do, wasn't it? But yeah, that's how it was, mate.
Where was your seat, Diesel? Was it in the west or the east stand, or what? Do you remember?
No. Family enclosure season tickets. All it says.
Yeah. I remember when I was really young, when I was like mid to late 70s.
Yeah.
I remember at Arsenal, they used to have this thing called a schoolboy enclosure. And it was this little terrace that ran in front of the West Stand, right? And like me and my dad used to go in there. We then graduated from there to the North Bank. And then sometimes if I think it was because if my dad was flush, we'd go in the West Stand lower. Do you know what I mean? And I remember, like, it was £3.50 for a ticket in the West Stand lower at that time. Do you know what I mean? I remember one Christmas, it was like Friday before Christmas, Arsenal played because of the Christmas shopping, right? And it was snowing. We were playing Norwich at home. It was a Friday night. There was about 18,000 people in the ground, right? And there was no one else in the block that we were in the West Stand lower. And we were sitting in these two seats, and it was snowing, and there was snow like settling on the seats beside us. It was just mental, mate. Honestly, it was a full-on snowstorm going on.
Nice. I'm still baffled by what you just said about £3.50, mate. Christ, it's a bargain, isn't it?
Yeah, £3.50 it was to in the West Stand.
Take the old family for that. God.
When I first started going, I think it was £1.20 to get in the North Bank.
Christ.
You know what I mean? I remember it, £1.20. And I remember kicking off, right, at Highbury when they were talking about putting the price up to 12 quid to get into the North Bank, right, from 8 quid.
Take that now.
It was a massive increase. And I was really complaining about it. And me and my mates were as well. But, you know. So, Diesel, when you weren't able to get it to the games, like for away games, or how did you like keep in contact with what was going on in the games? Or how did you watch the games?
No, God, blimey, mate, I can't remember if I'm honest. We never really went to a lot of away games. You know, the odd one, because obviously what we would do, the odd away game here and there, because I do remember going Crystal Palace. I really like their stadium, you know. I've got memories of that. But when it came to away games, it would be me, my dad, either my uncle, his brother, because he was Arsenal as well, or one of his friends or something. So it was always like 3 or 4 of us, you know, and it was sort of like a day out sort of thing, you know, whenever he could get tickets or whatever. But other than that, mate, I think back then, God, probably the radio, teletext.
I can remember the radio. I used to enjoy the radio commentary.
Yeah.
I remember you probably heard me say it a few times to Terry when I first started coming in your channel and he was doing the commentaries. And he was really good.
Yeah, he was.
He was really good at commentaries, and I said to him a couple of times, he reminded me of Peter Jones, right? The way that he used to do his commentaries and whatnot, because he was really good at it. And I remember suggesting to him that he should go and do commentaries on hospital radio or something.
Yeah.
like the old fellas like who are in hospital or whatnot. Because I think they'd enjoy it. But
yeah, no,
Yeah.
mate, I totally agree with you. Yeah, I totally agree. That's the one thing he was very good at, I must admit. He made my job so much easier. But because after time, I'm like, obviously, I'm all right with Arsenal players, but like the opposition players, I'm trying to get the name. Oh, that was by the numbers. Oh, God, hang on, what was his name? And by the time I pronounce the name, it's 5 minutes has gone and the goal's been scored. I'm like, I'm so behind. But yeah, no, he was bang on with that, mate. I must admit, he was.
Yeah. So, when you hold on, sorry, Diesel, I'm just trying to find something.
Yeah, go
on. Hold on. Don't worry about it. Forget it. I'll do it a different way. So, what was when you were growing up? Who was your favourite players when you were growing up, Diesel?
Ian Wright. Ian Wright's my all-time favourite Arsenal player. All time. Ian Wright was my favourite. I always had a thing for Anders Limpar. It's funny, right? So when I used to go to when I had the season ticket, I used to sit on my left. There was a boy. He was a bit older than me, a few years older than me, and he was, and obviously next to him was his dad. So it was always them two there, and I got speaking to them. But to the right of me, there was this old boy, right, and he was honestly, it's probably the most grumpiest, moaniest, whiniest guy I've ever met. Always used to go in a suit, right? Always a black suit with one of them Charlie Chaplin style hats, right? Yeah. Honestly, really nice guy to me. Really nice to me. It was really nice, but was always coated off the players. Always. Nothing ever satisfied him, right? He'd stand up, when we scored, wouldn't cheer, just stand up. Then he'd sit back down, then he'd moaning again. Yeah.
No.
I'll tell you something though. He went every week. No matter how bad it got, no matter how much he moaned, you guarantee he was there next week and the week after that and the week after that. It just as a kid, I'm like, if you don't like it, mate, why'd you come here? Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Honestly, yeah, but as a kid, like, you don't get it. You just think, Christ, you're going to give yourself an heart attack, right? But no, it was, Ian Wright, Anders Limpar, and the reason why I say about the people I sat with, because with Anders Limpar, what I noticed with him, every time he touched the ball, it was like, oh, he's going to do something here. He's going to do something. And, you could just feel the crowd just, a lot of us would stand up. As soon as he got it on the edge of the box, like everyone stands up. Limpar's on the ball. Something's going to happen. And he was one of those players. I always had a soft spot, mate, for David Hillier, I always liked David Hillier. I know I always get a mixed response when I mention his name. Because he was what I find with David Hillier, he was very much like Marmite, but I really liked him. I thought he was a very good, cultured midfield player. I really liked him. Who else did I like?
George really liked him as well. Because
yeah.
I think I'm right in saying he was in the team when we won the Cup Winners' Cup with George. I might be wrong, but I think he played in that game.
Yeah, do you know what? I think that was the game where what happened? Someone, because I'll never forget this, right? There was a lot of Arsenal fans who were on his back. Someone passed him the ball, and he was in his own. He was in his own world. He wasn't focused, right? So someone passed him the ball, and the ball went completely past him. Then there was a roar from the crowd, and then sorry. And he come around again, but he was in a daydream. It was really weird. And I'll tell you something. Honestly, he got so much stick for that. Just little things like that I remember as a kid. But Yeah, David, obviously Tony Adams, of course. But I think when you're a kid, mate, it's more you're more into the attackers, isn't you? You know, and Merson for me, I've just. Do you know what it is, mate? With me, Warren, I love characters. I do. I always have. You know, and that's why I love Wrighty. I loved Wrighty. I loved how he was as a player. I loved the way he used to interact with the fans. I loved the fact he was a joker on the pitch. He'd score and doing it with the ear, and you know, and his celebrations and all that. And he, you know, around that time, Ian Wright could not do any. He could not do any wrong. He couldn't. He was the king. He was. Everyone loved it. George loved his players, but he always, and everyone says it. You know, George Wrighty was his favourite. And if you ask any ex-Arsenal player, they always say that. Not out of jealousy or anything like that. You know, but they do say, look, you know, I get it, I understand it, but Ian Wright was George's favourite, and we all knew that, and it was cool because you know
it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Talking about Ian Wright, I've got something here for you. It's your surprise, right? So I've made this especially for you,
right?
So I'm going to let you watch it. I think it goes on for about 6 minutes, something like that, but. Anyway, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to let it play and then we can talk about it after. But I have to warn you, there's bits of it that are quite emotional. All right? So be prepared.
Okay.
Hold on, what's going on?
More celebrations for Wright. Trying to be a little too intricate. Davis recognising the need to spread it a little bit. Wright slipping, but shooting and scoring. He's been out on the pitch in Arsenal colours for some 44 minutes only. And he's doing what comes naturally, and genuine congratulations from his new teammates Hilburn, but nothing given. And there's no offside. Ian Wright! They have a new hero, the Arsenal. Smith, that's a great touch. In behind the defenders, and they can't catch Wright, he's got two. Well, he's sending it through for Smith. And in comes Wright, is it the hat-trick? This is a personal fairy tale. Smith, the goal! And it's Wright who's claiming that he got the last touch from Smith's header. Campbell, Dixon. Wright's gone to the near post and deflected it in. His sixth goal for Arsenal. It's only his fourth game for the club. Wright still running, and Ian Wright! Arsenal! More celebrations for Wright.
Ian's still the highest scoring striker ever to play for Arsenal, and he owes a lot to the man who first taught him to kick a ball, his old school teacher, Sid Pigden.
As I haven't seen him for, 23, 24 years, and so he would now be expecting me to be 6 feet under, I would think. I don't actually think, he probably won't recognise because he won't believe it's me. Hello, Ian. Long time no see.
Mr. Pigden, you're alive.
I'm alive, he says. How are you doing?
I can't believe it. Someone said you was dead.
As you see, I'm very much in, and I'm so glad you've done so well with yourself.
He was so
supportive all the time. He kind of like had me as his kind of like special guy.
I don't know what to say. God, I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
You know, now I realise how important he was in my life. The first main imposing figure, male figure in my life who was trying to guide me on the right road.
How far are we going back now? 40 years, 30 years anyway.
Easy, 30 or 32 years.
Yeah.
I remember him saying that he was more proud of the fact that I played for England than him flying over fucking Paris.
Oh,
I love that man. I know he loved me. You know, I don't know why he chose me. I'm glad that he did. He was the one who taught me about Jimmy Greaves and making sure when you finish, Ian, when you're going through with the goalkeeper, look for the space, score beautiful goals. But he gave me responsibility. I mean, I used to collect the registers from the teachers. Then they made me milk monitor. I really liked that. And, you know, I looked
what was that like for the kid who couldn't sit still?
Well, it was really good. I just felt important. He wouldn't let me play football if he'd heard that I've been naughty in class. He just gave me a sense of feeling like I had some use. You know, it was really weird because the viral video that went around. Where
yes, in 2010, you were reunited with him, and that video clip online's been viewed over 2 million times. You had thought that he had passed away. You'd been told incorrectly.
Couldn't find him. I was doing a television show, and there's a bit in it where I had to go back to the ground and just sit in the director's box. And so we're sitting there in a reflective moment, and then he just came off my right shoulder. And I'd said to him, "Oh my gosh, I thought you died, I thought you was dead." And he said, "Well, I'm very much alive, Ian," something like that. And then he said how proud he is of me. And then I hugged him, and because he was 3 or 4 steps up, I felt like I was like 7 again. I remember him saying, you know, because he was one of the youngest pilots in World War II. And when we won the war, he was one of the pilots chosen to do the flyover of Buckingham Palace, right? So I remember him saying that he was more proud of the fact that I played for England than him flying over Buckingham Palace.
Oh,
I love that man. Gosh, man, I'm so sorry to people who are listening. I'm just turning into this bumbling, crying guy. But
they'll all be crying with you, Ian, don't worry.
When he said that, he changed my life just by recognising, I don't know what it was when I was standing outside that classroom, that I needed more. And he gave it to me. And, you know, to be able to unveil his plaque at Turnham Junior School was the greatest thing that I've ever done in my life, to be honest. He's the greatest man in the world.
Wow. So, Diesel, what did you think about that? Let me just get it off. Trying to get it off. I'm trying to see how to get it. That's it. So, what did you think about that, Diesel?
Yeah, I saw the bit where obviously when he was in the, you know, when the teacher comes behind him, I did see that bit. I didn't see the bit after. But yeah, it's you know, I'm quite an hard man, mate. So it takes more than that to try and break me down. That's just me. You know, I'm half Jamaican. You know, what can I say? You know what we're like. But you know, it's seeing the goals as well, mate. It's just, you know, it takes me back every time he used to, you know, he'd score. You know, it was, I mean, reverberate, because I think Highbury held what, 38,000.
Yeah.
And you hear that just, you know, reverberating around the stadium. Ian, right, Ian, right. And he'd play up to the crowd. He loved it. And the thing is, Righty knew how much he was adored, not just by his teammates and George. The Arsenal fans, we loved him. Righty, honestly, 2.5 million from Crystal Palace. You know, and he does what he did, you know, and he was a character as well, Warren. And, you know, again, that's why I sort of gravitated so much towards Righty, because obviously when you're a kid, you know, your favourite players 9 times out of 10 are the strikers, the ones who are scoring the goals, right? And obviously, you know, when you're in the playground, you know, you pretend you're Ian Wright and, you know, and this, that, the other. But the man was a god. He was an absolute god. You know, how he didn't get more caps for England, I'll never know. Obviously, around that time, the competition was fierce. But I'll tell you something, Righty for me, he's up there. You know, he's up there. He is up there. Yeah, he is. He is. Obviously, seeing that man live, the pace, he had the touch. He was, and the fact he came into the game late. I think he came in at 24. And you know, like you look at that and you think to yourself, Christ, you know.
So did you ever see the documentary of him? Was it from Broccoli to the Big Time or whatever it was?
Yeah.
That documentary, man, it was incredible.
Yeah, because he had a lot of knocks back in the day, you know, years ago.
Because apparently he kept trying out for all these clubs and none of them wanted him. And Rocky got picked up by Arsenal and he just kept saying to him, keep going, don't give up. And he got picked up at the end.
See, look, the thing is, yeah. And keep talking, mate, hang on.
So, he got picked up by Palace and, you know, he started off, I think they gave him like a month contract or something. And Steve Coppell really was the main one. He just thought he was. What's the word he used? He said that he was like almost a complete player, but without going through the development stage or something like that. He was just blown away by him, and he was. Like, you know, as Diesel was saying, 2.5 million quid that player, Ian Wright, cost Arsenal from Crystal Palace, right? But back then, 2.5 million was a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a lot of money, and not everyone was convinced by that signing.
Yeah.
You know, but listen, you know, I think after literally the first game, everyone was like, "Ooh, he's a player, isn't he?"
That goal, the first one that's on that clip, was the one at Leicester, and that was his first ever goal for the club, and I think it was on his debut, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't score 179 goals in the top league in England if you're rubbish. Do you know what I mean?
No, listen, you know, you'll never, whether it's an Arsenal fan or any other fan, you will never, ever, I've never, and I mean this, mate, I've never, ever come across a football fan who's had anything, you know, bad to say about Righty or said, you know, he was crap or he was shit or whatever. No, never. Honestly, he was up there, mate. You know, to a point where his celebrations, the fact he used to play up to the crowd, you know, he knew how to hype a crowd. Most non-Arsenal fans loved Righty as well. You know, it was honestly, whether they were Man United, everyone loved Righty. You know, he's that character. You couldn't hate him. You know, it's honestly, mate.
He's just like a normal geezer off the street, isn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and I think you know, he had a lot of respect because, as I said, he came into the game late. You know, and I think when you look at that, and obviously you hear his story, and you know that obviously nothing come easy for him. He had to really grind. It's similar in a way to like a Jamie Vardy, in a way where, you know, better late than never. Mm-hmm. You know, you get knocks, you know, you keep picking yourself up and going again, keep going, you know, and then you finally make it. And I think, you know, as a fan, you look at that and you think, do you know what, fair play to you. Because, you know, it's not easy, mate. You know, you get a knock and, you know, you think, oh, sod going through that. I've had my heart broken. But no, to keep going, keep persevering when
because I remember it was quite late into his career when Arsene Wenger came to Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think he was only with Arsenal for another 2-3 years when Arsene Wenger came. And I remember Arsene Wenger making a comment about him, and it annoyed me because he turned round, Arsene Wenger, and said, yeah, if I'd had him when he was younger, I could have made him world class. And I was thinking, how dare you? He is world class. What are you talking about? What do you mean I could have made him world class? Because I thought he was, Diesel.
Oh, of course he was. Yeah, of course he was. Yeah. No, you don't score that amount of. It weren't just the goals he scored. It was the way he scored him. It was the fact, you know. He was class, mate. The things he won as well. You don't do that. The first one to beat Cliff Baston's record, and look how long that went on for. The man was world class. He was world class. In fact, the vast majority of the players in that team were world class.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying, Warren. We've seen world-class players, and I'm meant to sort of go giddy over the Kai Havertz and the Gabriel Jesus. I've seen Ian Wright. I've seen Henry.
Yeah.
I've seen Bergkamp. I've seen Paul Merson.
See, the players we've got in this team now, I don't think they've got into that team. No chance. No, I think what it is, mate. Don't forget, there was no social media back then, or very little. And I think now obviously social media is in our face. These players get overhyped a lot more than what they should. And I think social media it plays a big part. You type in Martin Odegaard, like for example, on YouTube, and you'll just see clips of all his little silky moves and all that, and you immediately think, oh my god, he's like Bergkamp. No, he's not. He's not. But what it is, obviously, we've got a lot of these Johnny-come-lately fans. These Johnny-come-latelys who, these youngsters, the young fans who only really know Arsenal from Wenger days. And yeah, oh bless you. You know what I mean? So there he is, people. This is who's on the show tonight. This is Diesel. And he has got his own YouTube channel called Diesel Arsenal.
Yep.
And he just mate. I'm going to put links for all of his socials in the description of the video. But he's on Instagram and he's on X as well. And like I say, he's got his YouTube channel. Now, before we go any further, I'm just going to play you something because on his YouTube channel before, he was on a different one called Claude and the Bansters. And he used to have this sidekick called Terence. And him and Terence used to go at it non-stop, right, when they were on straight together, mostly about Arteta. But, yeah, so before I say anything, or put this on, Diesel, is there anything you want to say about your channels or whatnot?
No, I just thought it's as you said earlier on, mate, I think, obviously the people who watch you watch me, people who watch me watch you. And I think, but if there are any that aren't subscribed, I should say it more, actually, mate. I don't really say it, if I'm honest with you, when I'm streaming, because I always forget. But yeah, we need to obviously, keep promoting the channel. Subscribe, obviously, as we all know, it costs nothing. But obviously, smash the likes. Bare minimum, that you can do for us. Obviously, this isn't easy to do. Warren knows that, to advertise it, and obviously you give up your personal time to do this as well. So the least you can do for us is give us a like and subscribe. But yeah, I had a look the other day, mate, and then the one that we did. Now look, for someone who doesn't stream a lot, and I don't, admittedly, I mean that's already on 580 views. Now to a lot of channels, that's nothing. But to us, I mean, that's pretty decent for someone who doesn't stream a lot. So, it just goes to show, mate, that I need to try and do more, and I'm pretty confident if I can, then it'd be a matter of time before the channel grows because I'm not one. Yeah.
I mean, sorry to interrupt you,
I
Diesel. I was just going to say, before Diesel set up his Diesel Arsenal channel. Their channel he had with this Terence fella, and when Claude was alive, God bless his soul, they had something like 30,000 subscribers, if not more. So when they were together, it was, for me, I used to love it. And it wasn't just because of the way they used to kick off at each other, because it was funny, I'm not going to lie. But what I liked was the way they engaged with their audience as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not a lot of channels do that. They made you feel like they cared about what you were saying and wanted to engage with you. And for me, if someone's taking the time to watch what you're doing and like taking the time to put a comment in, the least you can do is read it out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, and that's the reason I've recorded this tonight, and I'm going to do something else so that I can engage properly with the people when they're putting their comments in, because I just think it's a mark of respect, really.
Yeah, no, mate, I totally agree. And that was, I mean, look, I think before Terence and I joined Claude, rest in peace, I think Claude was probably on about, 20, I think from memory. And I think obviously when we joined, we had a target to hit, and obviously we, grew that together. It wasn't just me and Terry, it was all three of us, from around about 20 to, I think I've just had a look now, it's from 32 and a half. So yeah, and obviously it's a shame, it's a channel just sitting there doing nothing and whatever, I won't go into that. But look, it was a team effort, Warren, and we had something special, and but the one thing we always maintained, because I'm with you, by the way, mate. I don't watch a lot of other people's channels, but the ones I do watch, it does amaze me. I'm just seeing super chats every single minute, and yet some of them don't even get read out, or not just super chats, but chats. I understand, obviously, as some, a lot of these people's chat rooms are really busy, and it's manic and all that, but at the same time, you are where you are because of the people who watch you. So that there's, and I've taken that onto my channel. Before I start, I always this, mate. I always big up the real legends of the channel, which is the guys in the chat. I have not ever done a stream on my channel where I've not done that. Or I've always done it, and so yeah, just goes to show, doesn't it?
So anyway, I'm going to show you this now. What this is, it's a clip that I got earlier today from Diesel and Terry going at it on the channel. So I just want you to see this so that you can see what it was like, because for me, it's pure gold. So here we go. Let's start in a sec.
How can you talk like that, how you are now, when we're 10 games in to a 38 games? We're not even near halfway.
Because everything
and you're talking like, he's showing you
everything I've said from the start. Let's be honest here.
This is the problem why this club is in an absolute mess. Is because of fans like you, who after 10 games think he's got it sewn up. We're seventh.
No.
We're seventh, Tel. You're talking like we're 10 points clear at the top.
Because we haven't played yet. If we win tomorrow, where do we go tomorrow if we win? Have a look at the table. Where do we win? Where do we go?
But hang on, Tel. It's dependent on other results as well. I don't care. If we win tomorrow and we go top of the league, I don't care. I want to be there at the end of the season. It doesn't matter about.
Of course we do.
I've seen Hull City, Wigan come up and be top of it. It doesn't matter. Do you know what I'm saying? It's where we end up.
Of course we do. What I'm saying to you is, there's a long way to go yet. There's still absolutely
So why are you talking like that?
Exactly. No, what do you mean? Why am I talking like that?
You're more or less saying to me, Diesel, that's what you're more or less saying.
No.
So if Arsenal go for a bad patch, can I turn around to you and say, no, I wouldn't do it because it's at the end of the season.
Of course you can. You've been doing that.
Don't talk big now, because we all know there's egg on your face, Tel. Egg on your face.
From the start. Same as everyone.
Yes, because I know this manager. He ain't going to do nothing for us. You're happy with 6th, 7th, 8th. I'm not.
Diesel,
I'm not.
Back,
you just want to see attractive football and loads of goals. And that's your match day done. I want to win trophies still. You just want to see goals and free-flowing attacking football.
You don't want to win trophies. You don't want to win trophies. You don't want to win trophies because when I talk about winning the FA Cup and a Charity Shield, you go like that. Oh, but that was nothing. We don't think about that. We don't want because Arteta won that. We don't want to talk about that. If it was Wenger winning,
big clubs don't even talk about a cup from 2-3 years ago. Yeah,
you just said it's not me. You said when it's a trophy.
I've always said to you, fish and chip paper.
There you go. How am I going to get rid of? How did I get rid of this before? There you go. Oh, bloody hell! Yeah. What did you? Sorry, dude. I thought I'd lost you there for a minute. So, what did you think about that?
Mate, there was many like that. Yeah, do you know what? It's mad. Like when you watch it back, you know, I've always said, and I've said it on my channel as well. You know, I like debate, Warren. You know, I see some of these podcasts where you got four. You know, there's 4 of you on, but you all agree on the same thing. It's not a debate. You know, and obviously, as much as it was, you know, lucky for Terry, we never did these streams in the same room because I dread to think what would have happened. But you know, but yeah, he thought one way, I thought the other. We were actually, you know, polar opposites. But it was something that everyone, even like to this day, I still get asked a lot about. You know, Terence, and about, you know. Wouldn't it be great if you rejoined, and obviously you've done streams together again, because at times it was comedy gold. But the funny thing is, mate, it was never scripted, you know. Like, and I say this all the time, hand on heart, it was never a case of right. You say this, I'm going to see that on purpose. We're going to create an argument. It just went that way. It went that way because as much as I was like, you know, I'm going to try and be calm on this one. The minute he would say something, and I was like, I haven't got the tolerance, mate. I haven't. I'm one of them, Warren. I'm an impatient person. I have no tolerance. I don't suffer fools, you know what I mean? And I think some of the things he was saying, because he's so much about this manager, you know, he supports Michelle first and then the club second. And I was like, nah, we're 10 games in and you're going on like 10 games. Nah, I'm sorry, mate. But yeah, it's and there were times where, like, I'd noticed he was slowly turning Claude, and I was like, no, you're not getting me. You definitely ain't getting him. Claude, wake up. Do you know what it was?
There was one time where he'd been on, right, and he left to go to work, right, and you and Claude was still going at it on the channel and chatting away. And then all of a sudden, right, there he was, and he was in with his high vis jacket.
Yeah, he's in his van.
And he come back on and he's going, what's all this rubbish I'm listening to? I'm forgetting.
Well, bloody hell. Where did he come from?
It was one of the funniest ones I've ever seen. But it was mad because these was 100%. If you watch these shows, right, you can tell by the way that it sort of builds up that it's going to kick off, and then it just does. Right, you can tell that it's not scripted. It's just
mate, it weren't.
In a pub or an Indian.
Yeah, and you know what it was, mate? We had we used to get comments from so many people, right, saying to us, "Oh, Diesel, I was watching so and so, and someone's put in their chat room, oh guys, get over to Claude and the Bansters, Diesel and Terry about to kick off big time." So, you know what I mean? So obviously, you know, word was spread because we noticed, like, we'd have sort of maybe, I don't know, 200-300 people watching us, and then all of a sudden, we just see the numbers go up to 600, 700, 800. It was like bloody hell. And yeah, it was obviously word had spread, you know, it's about to go off. Get over there now, you know.
Yeah.
But it all started mildly and nice and blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, and then as soon as he opens his mouth and says something about the manager, that's where I was like, no, I can't sit here and listen to this. And you know, it wasn't just me and him. Claude and him used to have some proper arguments as well, did they?
Yeah, because I can remember it, mate. I remember Claude coming on the channel. That was why I came to your channel.
Yeah.
Right? Because of what happened to Claude on AFTV. Because I didn't agree with it. I thought it was wrong. I thought it was out of order. And I think it was premeditated. I think they set him up. And they were looking for an excuse to get rid of him. And I just thought it was disgusting. And I didn't agree with it. And I came to your channel and I just thought, what the hell is this? This is absolutely brilliant. And it was like, honestly, it was gold. And like I say, it wasn't just because of the tear-ups. It was the way you interacted with the audience, the way you two interacted with each other when you weren't having tear-ups. It was because I wanted to support Claude as well. And yeah, it was great. It really was. But anyway, so going back to you as a football fan, Diesel, when you were at school and stuff, did you used to play football there, or how
I played for the I played for the I'm just trying to think. Yeah, it was more when I moved to East London. So obviously I moved to Mile End from Islington. But yeah, secondary school. No, it's actually, no, tell a lie, primary school. So I played for this was when I moved to Barking. So yeah, the primary school that I went to, I played in their football team. And then when I went up to secondary school, I played in that team as well. I preferred striker, but they used to put, because obviously I've always been quite a bit of a lump, so they put me at the back of centre half. But yeah, it was. I played for a team as well where it's really weird. So we had to. It was a church team. It was So to get into the team, you had to go to church every Sunday, right?
Right.
Not that I'm religious or anything like that, but all the other boys used to go, and our captain, a boy called Peter back then, his dad used to sort of run the church service or whatever. So yeah, we'd go there, all the boys would go there, but I didn't mind because obviously all the other boys were there, so it was a laugh. So, you know, as we're sort of closing our eyes, doing the prayers and all that, we'd obviously, you know, we'd get the popping candy on our tongues and stuff like that. It was just, you know, just little rascal stuff, wasn't it? But yeah, so yeah, but I weren't great, if I'm honest with you, mate. You know, but yeah, I was always had an interest in it, mate. And then obviously I discovered girls, and yeah, I just the rest is history, as they say. But
exactly, mate. So, what would you say was your favourite memory of watching Arsenal when you were growing up?
I'd have to say favourite memory was beating Sheffield Wednesday twice in the cup final. I went to that one. I went to the first one. No, the second one. Sorry, I went to the second one. And that was absolutely brilliant. And also, mate, I've got to say, you know, if I'm being honest, another memory of mine was seeing John Jensen score his first goal. Honestly, mate, the crowds, the shock horror when that went in. Honestly, it was you know, it was one of them things where I was there, I saw that, you know. So yeah, that was really good. Ian Wright, I mean, so many goals, you know. It's just Ian Wright. Honestly, mate, that around the whole state, he was so loved. Every time he scored, Ian Wright. It was mad. I used to love it. I love this guy. In fact, if I'd ever met him when I was that age, I probably would have fainted, mate. I was I was in love with Wrighty. I thought he was absolute class. But worst memory, mate, is I think it was opening day of the season. We played Coventry at home. We lost 3-0. Do you remember that? Mickey Quinn hat-trick.
Yeah, I do.
That was the worst memory. That was, well, no one see it coming. I mean, they were good goals as well. And obviously, because of that, mate, every time I hear that song now, ain't nothing but a Mighty Quinn. Come on with that. Do you remember that song?
Yeah.
You not seen anything like the Mighty Quinn. Every time I hear that, it reminds me of that day. Yeah, so that was the worst one. That was an absolute shock. Did not see that coming at all. And you can imagine the guy sitting to my right, the old boy. Oh, my God. Christ. He was going in.
I mean,
where I get it from.
Like seeing Arsenal getting turned over at home is not good. I think I remember seeing Man United beat us a few times. I can't stand United. And it goes back years with me. Before probably the 79 Cup final, but I just can't stand them, Diesel. I don't like the club. I just think.
No. Well, you've heard me say it, mate. I can't stand them more than Spurs. You know what it is?
Worse. It got worse for me when Ferguson came. I just can't stand the fella. But anyway, so how you mentioned a little bit about when you went to away games.
Yeah.
Right? So what was the favourite away ground that you went to?
If I'm honest, mate, probably it's probably Crystal Palace. If I'm honest, I've always liked their stadium, Warren. I like old school stadiums. I do. These brand new ones. Yeah, they're all right. I just like an old. Looks like a rundown. I like an old stadium. I do. I always have. So, I'd say Palace. I always love going out to Park. If I'm honest, that's another stadium I really liked. Just off the Barking Road there, and it was close to home. It was local, so yeah, it was. Upton Park's one. I'm trying to think where else I've been.
Went to the Den, didn't you?
Yeah, I was just about to say, I've been Millwall a couple of times, which is obviously a bit daunting. Obviously, I don't know. Well, when you
say that again,
come to that bridge, you got the bridge on your way to the stadium. You have to walk.
Yeah.
Where you got the car place, the car scrap place, or whatever, and you walk out. Yeah, and you. Kind of place where you think, as soon as I turn that corner, if they've got you. But yeah, it was, it's, where else have I been? I've been, I'll tell you where else I've been. Not so much Premier League clubs, mate. I've been to Reading Stadium, the Medeski Stadium. I like that.
Right. Okay.
God, what else? So I mean, about my memory is terrible. I'll tell you, tell a lie. I've been Villa Park. Villa Park's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Villa Park. Yeah.
Did you ever go to Anfield or Old Trafford or anywhere?
I've never been Anfield, mate. No, I've been St James's Park, Newcastle. I've done that.
That is proper.
I met Peter Beardsley, and he was a really nice bloke, to be fair. God, who's the other one I met? Robert Lee was there. But yeah, I've done that. I've never been Anfield. Never been Anfield, mate. And I've always wanted to go just to experience this apparent atmosphere that they've got, because I just don't see it. But yeah, whatever.
I went once. I went for the game. I was in '89. I didn't go to the mythical Anfield '89, but I was there that season for the League Cup match when we drew 1-1 with them, and we absolutely ripped them to shreds. It's probably one of my favourite ever Arsenal performances because we destroyed them.
Yeah.
And if we'd come out of there with a 4-5-0 win, it wouldn't have been an exaggeration. It wouldn't have, because we were so dominant. The thing I found about Anfield that night when I went there, it was all right, but we were making a lot of noise. But they didn't really start making a noise until they scored. When they scored, they did make a lot of noise, but it weren't that great until they scored. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like I keep being told that this atmosphere there is, when they sing "You'll Never Walk Alone," but then at the same time, I've also been told that the atmosphere is okay. It really comes alive on a Champions League night, but if it's a Premier League game, then it's just more or less the same as as everywhere else. I've been Old Trafford a good few times. I don't see what the theatre of dreams. You having a laugh? I think it's I don't rate that stadium at all. I'm not just saying that because I don't like Man United. I do not rate the stadium.
No.
No, I don't think it's all that at all. But yeah,
You ever go to Spurs?
Yeah, I was about to say, I've been White Hart Lane.
Oh, God.
Not since it's been built, but this new one. But yeah, the old one. Because don't forget, mate, I do a job where I sort of, hospitality, I get invited to certain things and you take customers and, so obviously from a work perspective, I mean, that's where I did the Spurs played was it Newcastle? I think it was Newcastle. And they beat them 2-0. And yeah, obviously we met Pat Jennings there. Christ, the size of this geezer's hands, bro, and I swear to God, my Christ. Yeah, honestly, mate, he could have put his one hand over my whole head, and I've got a big head. But he was a really nice bloke, ex-Arsenal as well, but I think he's more considered a Spurs legend than he, Pat Jennings. But yeah, he's just, but yeah, it was all right, mate. I've got a thing about stadiums. I just like stadiums. So obviously for work, if I'm, on my travels, mate, I was at an exhibition last week and that was at the Ricoh Arena, Coventry. So I'm in the hotel and I'm walking down the hallway and, I look to my left and there's a big window there. When you look through it, you can see the stadium, the seats, and I just get excited with stuff like that. I love stuff like that, mate. I just love stadiums. I love stadiums. So yeah, there you go. That's from childhood.
It's I like going to them and just seeing what they're like.
Yeah.
Match day and stuff, So there's this. I want to find out about your match day experience. So when there's an Arsenal game on at the moment, what's it like for you, Diesel? What happens during the course of the day?
What now?
Yeah.
It depends on what I'm doing there, mate. If I'm honest with you, it's either. That Bayern Munich game tomorrow. It is tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah. It's. I'm trying to get back in time from work, so I'd very much like to do a watch along on that. I've not done a watch along in ages. But normally, mate, if I'm honest with you, if it's on on the weekend, it depends on what I'm doing, mate. It's most of the games I watch, if I'm doing something, if I've got family or I've got my son, I've got to take him to his football match or whatever, then obviously, I'll always watch it on catch up or I'll record it and watch it back. It's very much dependent on what I'm doing, mate, if I'm honest with you. I think that's why I don't really commit too much to watch alongs, because my day it can change like that, so I could be free tonight and then something will pop up. I'll have to go here or I'll be invited to that. And, it's in my interest to make sure I go to that. And, so sometimes, I don't want to sort of say, oh, yeah, I'm doing this. And then last minute, oh, sorry, guys, I can't do it now. You know what I mean? It's
Because the thing is, with this YouTube lark, if you're going to commit to do something, it pretty much, unless you want to F your channel up, you've got to do it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because I know I know a couple of people who they'll put up a stream. They're going to be doing the stream. They'll get it, scheduled in, and then they'll just pull it at the last minute. Or they'll change it, and I just think that's really bad. Because sometimes people will be, if they're a big fan of yours, and they they will arrange their time around what your stream. And I just think you can't do that to people. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah. That's why, mate. It's that's why I'm a bit. Ooh. That's why sometimes, if you notice, if I'm going to do a stream, I advertise it quite late. I'd like to advertise it in the morning, but then by the time the afternoon comes, I might think, oh God, I said I'd go at 7. I can't now because I've got to go out. So yeah, and it's just obviously misses people about, doesn't it? So yeah, I'm not, but it is what it is. People need to remember, Warren. A lot of these YouTubers, it's their full-time job. They're at home all day. Fair play to them. Good luck to them. Some of us have to work. So you're out early in the morning. You don't get home till late. On top of that, you got kids to look after. It's trying to find that time. And I keep saying this all the time that I need to try and do what I like to call little but often. It just doesn't work with me because I don't shut up. Like, when I chat, I chat. Do you know what I'm saying?
I thought that as well.
Yeah.
And that's why I do that daily sports thing every morning, right? I do no more than about half an hour. All I do is I get a website up with loads of sports news on it, and I pick out different ones I want to talk about. I pull them up and I read it off the website.
Yeah.
And that's all I do. And I post it up. And that's all it is. Just me talking into the camera, reading stuff off the internet. Do you know what I mean? And that's it. Job done. It's simple, it's easy, and it's quick. But once you start, trying to do a stream, the way I do it as well, if I do all these slides and that, you're probably talking about a couple of days to do the slides and then talking about it. If you've got to research it as well, it's a lot of work.
It's just what I'm saying. A lot goes into it, mate, and it's what it is. And I think it was easier. So obviously, when we was when Claude was here, and obviously myself and Terence, it was a lot easier then because you had 2 others to share that workload with you. So as you can remember, there'll be times I couldn't make it, or I was at work or whatever, but it was all right because Claude was there, or Terence was there. So. Claude did a lot of the daytime ones, because he was at home, so which was nice. It kept the channel ticking over, so it was when I think when you're on your own, then obviously, it can be, and that's no excuse. I need to get better. I need to manage my time more. I totally get that. I could do more than what I'm doing now. I could. But yeah, it is, it is hard. It's just, I think I put so much energy into that one stream that the following day I'm like, Christ, what do I talk about? I discussed everything last night.
The thing is, I don't know about you, Diesel. Sometimes I get so disillusioned with what is going on at this club. I just can't face talking about it. I just want to block it out and forget it. Do you know what I mean? Because I just get too angry otherwise. But anyway, so Diesel, I want to talk about for a little bit just about football in general. So, how do you think modern football can be improved? I know it's a question.
In what context? What do you mean?
Okay, so for example, what's your take on VAR? Do you like it, or how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I can see why we've got it. I don't blame VAR, mate. I blame the people who are using it. If I'm honest, I can see why we've got it. Because I do believe, in years gone by, the bigger teams tend to get the more favourable decisions. I do believe that. I think a lot of refs, you're at Old Trafford or Anfield or Highbury back then, or early years Emirates, and if you give a decision against a big team, you're in for it, and you're going to have the whole crowd. And I do think sometimes they tend to, bottle it a little bit. I think with VAR there is no hiding place, and I think it works. for you, it balances out over the season, mate. There are ones that we don't get, but there are also ones that we get that we maybe wouldn't have got. For me, you've never heard me blame VAR. It's here to stay. We just got to accept it. There's no point moaning about it. It's here now. The only thing I would like is maybe ex-players, ex-pros, common sense, to use it. I don't agree with it. It just slows the game down. I think the refs should use the monitors more. And actually, go and see it on the monitor. But if you make a decision, stick by your decision. Don't be swayed. So, yeah. That's what I would say about VAR.
My take on it is I was happy when it was brought in, right? Because before we had it, there was loads of really bad decisions being made, and I thought it would help, right? And I agree with you. I don't think the problem is actually with the computer system. I think it's the people that are using it. Because for me, the standard of refereeing in this country is abysmal. And the people that are using the software, I just don't think they're up to standard. Do you know what I mean? Because some of these decisions that have been made have been shocking. And
yeah.
I just think that they need to... I think VAR gets involved too much. I think we're almost at the point where VAR is reffing the game.
Yeah, what I don't like about it, mate, is you see I'm a massive fan of what I like to call equality, right? So what goes for one must go for everyone, right?
Yes.
Then I think in some games you're seeing certain incidents where it's a booking or it's a penalty or it's a sending off. You're seeing the exact same incident in another game and it gets away scot-free. Like what goes for one must go for the other. And I think that for me, because of that lack of consistency, that's where it really winds me up. But then when a manager, it winds me up and I'm a fan. When it's a manager and they speak out, because it's an emotional game, football. And I think what they're trying to do, Warren, is they're trying to desensitize it, if that's the right word. They're trying to take the emotion out. It's an emotional game. You're always gonna get managers, players speaking out or whatever it's in the heat of the moment. Just to give you an example, right? My boy plays in a team, and every now and again we get these. Obviously, I'm in the group chat with the coaches and the other parents, and etc. And every now and again we get a text to say, look, guys, there's this upcoming match on Sunday. We're not allowed to criticize or anything. We can only open our mouth, if it's praise, right? Other than that, we can't, shut it out or silence it out, whatever it's called, right? And in my head, I'm thinking, because I'm one of them dads, mate. If my son does something wrong in the game, I'm on him. Yeah, I'm not one. And I'm saying to the coaches, if you've got something to say to him, say it. Like, don't, because I'm here. Because if you don't, I definitely will. Because for me, that's how you learn. And I think now it's all this, trying to soft soap it and if it's nice, you can open your mouth. If it's not, if it's, criticism or having a go at them or whatever, then no, you must keep your mouth closed. And, this is what we're teaching our kids, mate. And this, I keep saying it on my channel as well. We will lose out on a generation of Arsenal fans. We will, because people don't look at tomorrow, Warren. They look at today. That's the big thing. And football, for me, as I said, it's not a sport anymore. It is a business.
It's true.
And yeah, it is. Just slightest little tackle, and the play goes over, and they're trying to, like Saka, right? The other Bayern Munich. Right at the end of the game, stuck his leg out on purpose, trying to get a penalty. It's cheating. Any other player who does that, we'd be on him. Because it's Saka, people just keep their mouth, the mouth shut. And it just winds me up because it's like you're a good player. You don't have to do that. And do you know what? Funnily enough, if he hadn't done that, all he had to do was skip past the keeper and he had an open goal, right? But no, he tries to go for the easy, like the coward's way out, and he drops. I'm telling you now, if that was Kai Havertz, my God, everyone would be on him. But because it's Saka, different stories, different rules, right, for different players. And that in football annoys me. You know, treat one the way you would treat the other. You know, that's how I look at it. No one is exempt from criticism, mate. No one.
Yeah.
No one.
I agree with you 100%. And for me, I think the referees need more power, right? I think the VAR should only get involved when they're asked to get involved. Because I have a suspicion from what I've seen that the VAR are monitoring everything that's going on. And if they see something they think's wrong, they'll get in the referee's ear and say, you need to go back and look at this, go look at that. I just think the referee, if he's not sure, should be saying, right, can you put that what's just happened on the monitor? I want to see what the situation is. Was it offside or was it not? Or was that a penalty? Was it not? Not then going, you missed that, you need to go and look at the monitor, right? Because for me, what's happening at the moment, they have more power than what the referee does, and I think it's wrong. Yes, I think the referees need to improve because I think they're not up to scratch, right? Yeah. But my end game would be that the referee is controlling it. They are the ones that have the ultimate power, because at the moment I don't think it is that. And
yeah,
you know, I agree with you 100%. It, like, the consistency across matches as well is shocking. And you know, when we spoke the other night and we were going on about Saka,
yeah,
I couldn't remember who it was that something had been said on social media about Saka and it wound me up. They were comparing him with Ian Wright, trying to say he's as good as Ian Wright, and I was just thinking, hold on a minute, what are you talking about? He's not. He's not another Ian Wright. For a start, he don't even play the same position. You know.
Yeah. See, this is the thing, Warren. You know, this is why, mate. Sometimes I don't really get too involved with the social media side, because you're just talking to idiots, mate. You know, these, and this is what I'm saying about a lot of Arsenal fans. You know, like they've got very short-term memories. You know, short-term memories. You know, it's always a flavour of the month. You know, and obviously Saka's very protected as a footballer. Every time he has a bad game, it's because he's tired. And I don't buy into it. I'm sorry. I have no adulation, if that makes sense, for any of these players of today. I do like Declan Rice, and I do think he should be our captain, but I'm not in love with the guy. You know, Ian Wright, I was in love with. I was in love with Dennis Bergkamp. I was in love with Thierry Henry, Vieira, Adams, Dixon, Winterburn. I was, Anders Limpar. You know what I mean? I was in love with these players. You know, I would cross the street for these players. You know, these players of today, I wouldn't cross the road for any of them. And this is what I'm saying is I mean, we've been very lucky in a sense where we've seen some of the players we've seen grace Highbury and grace the Emirates. You know, I mean, Alexis Sanchez is another one. You know, that was a player. You know, no one really mentions Sanchez anymore. You know, I know we go back to the Henrys and the Bergkamps and the Ian Wrights, but Sanchez was a player. You know, I'm one who always bangs on about mentality and attitude and I'm saying, leadership and, that sort of stuff, stand up and be counted in the trenches, all that sort of stuff. And I look at someone like a Sanchez who would win games on his own, more or less. You know, that's what I always loved about Steven Gerrard. You know, they can win. They are that good, Warren. They can pick up the game, put it on their back and go and win. You know, and Sanchez done that countless times, yeah, because that meant he was, when we talk about mentality monsters, that was a man who would kill himself, run himself into the ground to win, right? And, and to a point where he got criticised for it. Now, look, I say this all the time on the channel, though, mate. I say this all the time on the channel, in this day and age, right, in this modern world, if you show a bit of ambition, you're looked at as an absolute fruitcake. You are. You're looked at as a nut, right? You know, if you want better, you're looked at as you know, what's wrong with you? Are you an alien or something? You know, and that's what it is. You know, you've heard, you know, what I say about Michelle. You know, I want better. You know, and to think that everyone's response to me is, yeah, but if we sack him, who else are we going to get? Which tells me, so you must think he's the best manager in like world football. You don't think there's another manager out there in the world, forget the Premier League, in the world, who can't come in and do better? So you're putting him up there. You know what I mean? It's just, and this is what I'm saying, Warren. You know, George Graham era, you would never hear Arsenal fans talking like that. Never. And this is why. Because obviously the standards were set on the pitch at the club. All right, we had a manager who took no nonsense, right? You got into a fight with George. There's only one winner. It ain't you. It ain't you. It's, do you know what I mean? George is the governor, and everyone knew that. You know, and George's governor on the pitch was Tony. You know,
so talking of which, Diesel, just to move the conversation on.
Check your comments, by the way. Yeah, go on. Your private chat. Yeah, check your private chat.
I ain't got private chat.
Oh, yeah?
No, not on this. Do you want to stop, Diesel?
No, I was going to say, I've got about 10 minutes, if that's all right, mate.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
So final question for tonight, and then we'll finish it off another day. All right, because there's a bit more that I want to talk about. So, who was your team's? Do you think was your team's greatest ever player?
Arsenal's greatest ever player.
Yes.
Oh, well, I'm always torn with this. I can only talk about my era. Yeah,
no, that's fair enough.
Oh, it's got to be Thierry Henry, man. It's for me. It's got to be Thierry Henry. I'm always torn between him and Dennis, but I just think Dennis Bergkamp did amazing things with a football, but for me, Thierry Henry, it was like watching poetry, mate. It was poetry in motion, you know, and it's no coincidence, you know, when you speak to any other, well, most other ex-players, and you ask them that question, the best foreign import to ever grace the Premier League, 7-8 times out of 10, they all say Thierry Henry, you know, and and I think the reason why I would plump for Henry as well, and this is another thing a lot of Arsenal fans don't mention, Warren, yeah, it's not like we bought him and he was like that. You know, people forget we bought him from Juventus, and he was struggling there, right? I'll never forget when we bought him, and at the time we had Jermaine Pennant at Arsenal, and Pennant even, you know, famously made a joke in training saying, "Boss, did you keep the receipt?" He's not all that. Seriously, and that was coming from Pennant, right? So that tells me when Henry first got here, he was struggling a little bit, was nowhere near the finished article. And when you see what that man turned into, my God. No, Warren, seriously, because he weren't short. Thierry Henry was tall. He was tall, but look how quick he was. You know, he had an arrogance. He had an arrogance about him. The things he could do with a ball, the games he won on his own. You can't see it's hard because like the nostalgic me, I'd always have. There's part of me that wants to say righty, but I think but if I'm being, you know, I just love righty. No one comes close to righty, in my opinion. But if I'm being honest, mate, you know, if you ask me, who would you rather have in your team, Wright or Henry? Both of them in their prime, you got to say Henry. You got to, haven't you?
I always remember that goal he scored against Liverpool when in that previous week to him scoring this goal that I'm talking about. We'd been knocked out of the FA Cup and we'd been knocked out of the Champions League, and we were losing 2-1 at home in the Premier League. And I think it was the Invincible season. And it looked like we were going to lose the league as well, all in the space of a week. And he just he just said, "No, I'm not having it." And he picked up the ball, and it was almost like that goal that Diego Maradona scored against England. He just went past like the whole defence almost on his own and slotted it in the back of the net. And it was at the North Bank end of the ground. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
We won 4-2, and it kick-started a revival, a comeback, and we beat them 4-2, I think.
Yeah, mate. I mean, do you know what I was going to say to you, actually? Very quickly. When you asked me earlier, it just come to me, actually. When you asked me earlier on about, obviously, memories, certain things, and certain players. And I'll never... there's a player I'm going to mention to you now. When we signed him, I honestly thought he was going to be an absolute baller. There was something about this guy where I just thought, you know what? Something just told me he was going to be good. And he wasn't. He showed flashes, and that was Glenn Hilder.
Yeah.
Do you remember him?
Yeah, I do.
Honestly, mate, when we first got him, there was something about, I just thought, in my head, I just thought, you know what? Something tells me this is going to be a good signing.
Yes.
But yeah,
he was a winner, wasn't he? And I remember that there was a period before he came when we were really dour. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was like hardly any creativity in the team, and we were all crying out for like someone to come in with a bit of skill and whatnot.
Yeah.
And he looked mustard. He'd like go around beating players out on the wing and all this, but it just didn't last. And
no, that's what I'm saying. He showed flashes, and I thought, you know, but no, he just didn't really hit it off, you know. And also, I mean, look, no one ever mentions David Platt, you know, like when we had David Platt, you know, no one mentions Stefan Schwartz. And I actually like Stefan Schwartz. He weren't that bad a player, to be fair. But yeah, it's you know, I thought David Platt, when he signed, I thought he'd you know, do a little something for us. But, you know, it's just, I don't know. It's like, when it's mad, isn't it, when you look back and you think, Christ, some of the players that we've seen over the years, you know, I mean, Kevin Campbell, another one, you know, to me, not what I would call an Arsenal legend. It's funny because obviously he's on all these channels now and everyone's so up his arse. But at the time, the amount of booze he used to get, Campbell used to get a lot of abuse off the crowd.
I remember him.
I mean, yeah, he did.
You know, I remember going to an FA Youth Cup final, right? Because he'd scored all these goals in the youth team, like bundles and bundles of goals. And we played Doncaster Rovers in the Youth Cup final. We'd gone away to their ground and won 5-0.
Yeah.
And then we played them at home because it was a 2-leg thing, the final. And they came to Highbury. No word of a lie, Diesel. They had 3 men marking him because they were terrified of him. Because his reputation went before him.
Yeah.
Like, he used to score goals. He'd score 2 or 3 goals every game. So I just thought, well, let me go and have a look at this fella, right? And they opened up the whole East Stand that night for this match. And I just went along just to see what he was like. And the poor fella never really got a touch of the ball. We won 1-0, and he never really got a touch of the ball. So it was mental. But there was something about him. I thought, bloody hell, this guy, if he gets in the first team, he's going to be a beast. And there was all these calls for him to come in the first team because of the amount of goals he was getting for the reserves and the youth team. And I remember there was this fanzine at the time called The Gooner. And they had a front page and had a picture of him. And it said, play him or don't win the title or something like that. And he never got played.
I feel a bit sorry because what killed Campbell was Ian Wright. If we're being honest, you know, it was, you know, because we used to play them together up front, and it never really worked for me. Well, I suppose it did, to an extent. Campbell could hold it up, and obviously, but because everyone was so in love with Wrighty, Campbell never really got that what I like to call that adulation. He didn't really, did he? I think if I'm honest, mate, I think Alan Smith had more adulation than what Kevin Campbell did. But
there was one point where that George, he had Merson on one wing, Campbell on the other, and then he had Smith and Wrighty through the middle.
Yeah.
So he had 4 of them going forward. It was crazy.
Mate, that's what I'm saying. I mean, Merson, I've always loved Merson as well. I like him now as a pundit. It just makes me laugh. But yeah, I just but yeah, as a player, mate, he was class. Merson was class, and but yeah, Campbell the amount of games I used to go to, mate, and like the abuse he used to get, so yeah, not warranted because he was a trier, Kevin, but he was playing alongside Wrighty. You're never going to win that battle. It's just, and that was how it was, wasn't it? If we're being honest, shame, but yeah, it is what it is.
Hi, Diesel. How you doing, mate? Nice to see you again.
Yeah, mate, always a pleasure. You know that. Wazza! Good, mate. I love saying it. I can't help it. I love saying it.
I know, it's fine. I love it.
Wazza Rooney. Come on.
For coming on, man.
Nah, anytime, mate. Thank you for the invite. That's
It's a pleasure. Right, okay, so let's get into it. I'm not going to mess around because I don't want to waste too much of your time, mate. So, during your years of watching football, Diesel, and being a football fan, did you ever meet any famous players? And if so, what was it like? How did it happen?
Yeah, I've met God, let's go back. I've met Arsenal players or just in general?
In general, it doesn't have to be Arsenal. It can be anyone.
In general, I've met Ashley Cole. I've met John Terry. I've met Frank Lampard.
Wow.
These were more when I used to go clubbing. So I used to meet a lot of them in Faces. There's a club called Faces in Gants Hill, near to where I used to live. And at that, obviously, I don't think it's open anymore, mate. But several years ago, that was the hot spot. That was the number one main Essex hotspot where you'd find a lot of these footballers. So yeah, obviously, I used to go there all the time. And when you go somewhere all the time, mate, you just get to know people and talk to people and all that. So yeah, I met a lot of them in there. Not particularly nice, in my opinion, mate. Just scumbags who are just rich, really, mate. That's how I looked at it. Ashley Cole, loved him as a player, class player, but as a person, I thought he was an absolute. He was horrible, and yeah, he had an entourage. I was actually there that night when he got robbed. I think he had his Rolex nicked outside, but it was very, very flash. So it was just a matter of time before he got robbed. And when he did get robbed, if I'm totally honest, a lot of us were like, yeah, do you know what? Serves you right. So yeah, they, that's what a lot of these were like. They were just flash. I used to see him sort of going up to girls and talking to them, even though their boyfriend's standing right there. They just didn't have a care in the world. So that was them. I'm trying to think of who else I've met. I've met Ray Houghton. Ray's a personal friend of my dad's. Really nice bloke, I must say. Really nice guy. I've met Peter Beardsley. I've met Pat Jennings. The size of Pat Jennings' hands. Oh, my God. I'm still recovering from the handshake. But, yeah, it's But yeah, no, I've met a fair few, mate. Steve Bold, I've met. Paul Davis, I've met.
Wow.
So Paul Davis, when I used to live in Islington, Paul Davis was a local boy, and he didn't live. He lived literally 5-10 minutes away from me. And yeah, I used to meet him every now and again. Obviously, being out and about. Really nice guy, Paul. I think that's about it, if I'm honest with you, mate.
I've been Davis as well. And a lovely fella, and I absolutely loved him as a player as well. I loved him as a person. When I met him, he was just fantastic fella.
Who's that, Paul Davis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His missus was absolutely gorgeous as well. I just remember her having these really long dreadlocks, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Lovely. And he was lovely as well. So, and I loved it when he broke Glenn Cockrell's draw. I just thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and anyone who's ever met Paul Davis will tell you as well. And I think he's obviously from that sort of era. You know, the players back in them days, mate, they were just down to earth.
Yeah.
You know, there was no hype about them. You know, there was no entourage. Security with them. You know, they were walking to a pub on their own. You know, you could buy a round, they'd buy a round. It was that's how it was back then. You know, so but yeah, Paul Davis especially, very very down to earth. Really nice guy. You know, he was local lad, done good. That's how I looked at him. You know, so yeah.
So of all those players, Diesel, which one do you think stood out to you the most when you met them as people?
What, in terms of a nice?
Yeah.
Not many, to be honest. I got to say, yeah. Look, Paul Davis is definitely up there. Ray Houghton's definitely up there.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, really nice people. Really nice people. God, blimey, I think if I'm honest with you, mate, that's about it. I did like Steve Bold. Yeah, he was all right. You know, Steve was all right. You know, friendly enough. Yeah, well, yeah, actually, yeah, I've got to be honest. I think, yeah, Pat Jennings was really nice. The thing with him, I know he played for Arsenal, but I think he's more looked at as probably a Tottenham legend. But he, being in his presence, mate, I've got to say, you know, he had this aura. Yeah, you know, he's a big man as well. You know, and he's the hands. That's the one thing I'd always heard the stories about his hands. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, he was playing before my time, but I've always heard from a lot of people, you know, he could literally catch the ball with one hand. You know, that's how big his hands were. He was just an immense goalkeeper. But he was a really nice guy to talk to as well. You know, really nice guy. Nothing flash or anything about him. He is what he is. So again, down to earth, Warren, and you know, and just obviously you asked him a question, he'd stand there and talk to you, and yeah, he was a really nice guy. I must admit, really nice. He was.
I've heard people say that about Pat Jennings before, and that thing about catching the ball with one hand, I actually see him do it. I was in the East Stand with my dad, and we were playing Norwich, and this player took a shot. Pat Jennings, it was going like to his right, I think. He just stuck his hand out like that, grabbed it in one hand and pulled it into his chest. Mate, I've never seen anything like it before or since. It was mental. And they just got the ball, bounced it twice, and then kicked it up the field.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I've never seen a goalkeeper do that. Never, honestly, never. I've heard the stories about, you know, Jennings doing it, and you think bloody hell, for a goalkeeper to do that. I mean, these hands must have been. But yeah, I've got to say, when I met him, mate, bloody hell, you shake his hand and you he weren't even squeezing hard, and even then I was like, bloody hell, can I please have my hand back? Do you know what I mean? But yeah,
It's wild, isn't it? It really is. So going on to the team, right? Now, what I want you to do now, I don't want you to tell me like an 11. What I want you to do is talk about the teams in the terms of the seasons that they played, right? So what do you think was the greatest ever team at Arsenal? So, for example, was it the 89 team, the 91 team, the Invincibles, 2002? this current one? Unlikely. But which one do you think was the greatest ever team that Arsenal's ever had in your era?
Yeah, Joe, I've been asked this a few times, and I've always said this. I stand by the same answer, and for me, from my personal preference, it was the 2002 team.
Yeah.
Invincibles. I mean, come on, you can't. Absolutely brilliant. But I just feel the 2002 team just pips the Invincibles. And in terms of the least best team is clearly what we're seeing now. So yeah,
exactly. I can't say I disagree.
Debate that.
Yeah. So did you see the 91 team or the 89 team, Diesel?
Yeah, I did, mate. I think 89, I would have been, 8?
Yeah.
8 years of age. And I'm not going to sort of sit here and lie to you like a lot of people do and say, yeah, I was there. I was at 80. I was at Anfield. I wasn't, right? So I wasn't there, mate. But obviously, remembering the street celebrations and obviously, the whole of Islington going mad when that result came in. Obviously, I remember the the celebrations, etc. Long into the night, like the noise, all the cars with a, beep, 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 outside. And obviously what followed on the day after, just obviously you just saw loads of Arsenal sort of people with the shirts, with the the scarves, obviously, decorating, their cars in Arsenal stuff and all that. It was an achievement, and it was big, and it was popular, and it was massive, So yeah, obviously, our boys went up there and done a job,
Did you think that on the day? Did you think we were going to do it? Because I didn't.
No. I think people need to. A lot of people need to realise that at that time, Liverpool were absolutely. I mean, they were the best team around. To go there and get any type of result is a challenge in itself. To go there and win is an even bigger challenge. But to go there and win by 2 clear goals is the challenge of all challenges, right? So I think, no one really sort of gave us a prayer, and rightly so, because like I say, at that time, Liverpool were the team. Warren, they were the the team. Yeah, exactly. But obviously, when you've got a man in charge like George Graham, anything's a possibility, right? So I just think, obviously, we had an element of luck, a massive element of luck in that game. Things just went our way, and I think it's one of those games where you look at it and you think, everything just fell into place for us. Because there were times during that match where Liverpool were just absolutely brilliant, and we were hanging on for dear life. Certain phases of that game, and obviously when you see Mickey Thomas's goal, I mean, a massive slice of luck, and then obviously he buries it, and you just think, and if you look at the time as well, that was obviously late on in the game, and for him to have done that, and if you look when obviously, because it looks like he loses the ball and then he gets the ball back. So it was luck. It was a massive slice of luck, but obviously, when you look at what he did, scoring that goal, and obviously, we win the game by 2 clear goals. And funnily enough, obviously, then Mickey Thomas goes to play for Liverpool. It's mad, but it's one of them signings you think, nah, never. They wouldn't sign him after what he done to us. But but no. To answer your question, mate, no, it was a tall order. I don't think anyone really had any hope, especially when you look at who was in that Liverpool side back then. I mean, you're talking class players, and it was like, it was like Mission Impossible, and yet somehow we did it. And a lot of that goes down to George Graham.
Exactly, because I think it was a tactical masterclass.
Yeah.
And what made me laugh was that George thought, he's gone on record since then as saying he thought that we would go out there and beat them 3-0. And you remember the game, Mickey Thomas almost scored about 5-10 minutes before.
Yeah.
And he broke through again, and bang, this time he didn't miss. So, but yeah, I loved Mickey Thomas, man. I thought he was class.
He's another one. Yeah.
Him.
Yeah, he's another one. And you know what? It's funny because he you know, like when we talk about underrated players, you know, and I think there's a few from over the years at Arsenal where you could actually put some of these players in that bracket of they were, you know, they're underrated, you know, very good players. Mickey Thomas, good player. No one really talks about Paul Davis, you know.
No.
No. When we talk about players of the past, you know, Rocastle, I mean, you know, we talk about Tony Adams being Mr. Arsenal, you know, and if that's the case, then Rocky Rocastle weren't far behind. And, you know, and I think, again, you know, we talk about, obviously, you know, sad, obviously, you know, when he passed away. But people need to remember we had some very, very good midfielders, mate, back then, you know. And so, yeah, honestly, we need to be putting respect on Paul Davis, his name, Mickey Thomas. You know, David Hillier, for me, I always say it. He was one of my favourite players. I always liked Hillier. But again, you know, don't really talk about these players a lot. So, shame. But, you know.
Because the thing is, Rocky, right, and Paul Davis, I loved them. Absolutely loved them. Yeah. Because what I liked was they were both very creative. They could both get up and down the pitch. And the other thing was they wouldn't get bullied.
Yeah.
Look what Paul Davis did to Glenn Cockrell. He broke the guy's jaw, and rightly so. What he said to Paul Davis was an absolute disgrace.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, just adding to that as well, Glenn Cockrell wasn't exactly, you know, he's not exactly a pussy, mate. Do you know what I mean? He's, you know, Glenn Cockrell can sort of mix it as well, but. You know, again, you know, Paul, and this is the thing, Paul Davis, you know, he looked like butter wouldn't melt. If we're being honest, he looked like a nice guy, quiet, you know. But yeah, he could mix it. And to be fair, Rocastle was like that. You know, these guys could, you know, not only, you know, play ball warming, they could also mix it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, yeah, that was the kind of standard that we had back then, you know, obviously. And I would say on the channel, as you know, it's literally a case of, you know, looking towards the opposition in the tunnel and saying, look, how do you guys want to play today? Do you want to play ball? If you want to play ball, we can play ball. But if you want to mix it, we can do that too.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, telling you.
So that leads me nicely into this slide here, right? I just want to tell everyone about Diesel Arsenal's channel. I'm sure most of you know about it already, but if you don't, then you're missing out. You need to make sure you subscribe to his channel. It's absolute quality. I remember going to that channel after Claude got booted unceremoniously off AFTV, right? And I went along to watch this channel that Diesel had with his sidekick at the time called Terence and Claude, because I wanted to support Claude. And what I saw was just blew my socks off. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. But Diesel, do you want to tell him about your channel quickly?
Yeah, just I forgot. I think it's coming up to 2 years now. I think I've had it. And yeah, it was obviously a bit of a wrench, you know, leaving Claude and the Bansters, but I wanted to set my own thing up, you know, and have a channel where I can say what I want and not, you know, not answer to anyone if that, you know, if I'm being totally honest, that was all it was, you know. And everything I do, everything I say, I stand by. You know, there are certain times on that channel I'm sort of, because you know me, mate, I've got my own mind and I'm not afraid to speak it. And, you know, sometimes when you're working alongside others, you kind of have to sort of tone it down a little bit, something I didn't want to do. And anyone who can remember, there were times I'd say things on the stream and I'd have to sort of, you know, remind a lot of people, like, these are my views, not Terence's, you know, not anyone else's. These are mine. So anyone who comes for us, come for me, because I've said it, not him. You know, whereas I think on my channel now, if you know, it's me. I decide when I want to stream. I decide what I say. I decide how I do it. I decide who I get on. My rules, really. So yeah, that's why I sort of, you know, set it up.
Because the thing is, well, what I like about your channel, Diesel, is that you don't just talk about Arsenal. You talk about other stuff as well. like, for example, you talk about that. You talk about what films or stuff you've seen on TV that you're enjoying, and then there was that incident with that fella who kicked the cat and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? And I like that. Do you know what I mean? I think.
Yeah. No, mate. You know what it is. I had no. So like when I started the channel, you know, if we're being honest, mate, you know, there's probably 5-10 Arsenal channels popping up every single week, right? So, you know, it's a very crowded market, you know, and luckily for me, I had obviously where I'd sort of had past experience, obviously, you know, being on, you know, Claude's channel and that. I want to say built up a following, but I don't want to come across cringy like when I say that. But I think, you know, in my head, I just thought, well, starting my own channel, it's not like I'm exactly starting from scratch. I was very confident that a lot of the people who watch me on Claude and the Bandsters would hopefully follow me over to this channel and watch me. You know, you watch who you like, right? And if you like him, you tend to follow him. So that was sort of my thinking. But yeah, my thing was to obviously, you know, first and foremost, talk about Arsenal and talk about, you know, what's happening with the club. But where I wanted to be slightly different to everyone else, where it was the case of obviously, because obviously you know me, mate, I'm massively into my movies and series and that, and I like to talk about what I'm watching, something I've watched that I think might appeal to the guys, the guys in the chat room. I like to talk about, you know, life as a man. I like to talk about birds. You know, I just like to, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm a lad, mate. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, you know, but to be honest, life in general, you know, and you know, there's a lot of soap operas on YouTube, mate, and that's me being polite. You know, there's a lot of soap operas on here where it's all fantasy and a lot of it's not reality, and there's a massive difference between the two. You know, my channel, you know, what makes me proud, if that makes sense, is a lot of the people who watch me, Warren, I can tell you straight away who's going to be in the chat room tonight. And I think the reason why they keep coming back and watching is because they know they're watching someone who's, I'm down to earth. I'm real, and you know, I'm talking about stuff that we all experience in life. You know, I'm very aware that life is very hard at the minute, and you know, we're all struggling. You know, all of us. You know, we've all got our own struggles. You know, cost of living. You know, all the bills are going up. The one thing that's not going up are people's salaries, their wages. You know, and as a result, you know, it's just having spare money, you know, is just becoming less and less. People have got kids, people have got families, you know, and also, you know, and the thing is with me, mate, I can be serious, but I like to have a bit of banter as well in there. I like to have a bit of a laugh. So it's very much a mixed bag. And hopefully if it just, you know, people watch and, you know, they have a good time and they have a bit of a laugh, and it's very much a community feel in the chat room as well, which I love. I'm lucky I don't really get trolls. I get the odd one or two. I don't get a lot, if I'm honest, which I'm really thankful for. So yeah, it's just a place where people can come, mate, and just for that hour or two, forget the troubles and just sit back, enjoy, munch on the popcorn while they're watching me and have a laugh, mate. That's all it is, you know. Yeah. So yeah, you know,
that's what attracts me to it as well, because it's a bit like going to a sweet shop and getting a pick and mix.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It is. Anyway, so Diesel, let's get back to Arsenal. So looking at the club's history while you've been supporting them, during that time, what do you think's been the team's greatest ever achievement?
89.
Huh?
89.
Well, at Anfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with you about that.
100%. Yeah, that's number one. Because the sheer size of the challenge, Warren, it was, you know, we pulled off the impossible. And to do that, for the sheer scale of a job like that, everybody has to be on point. Everybody, you know, no passengers in that game. Everybody had to have played their part. The manager had to have played his part. That's where, obviously, you know, what I like to say, you know, that's where managers earn their money. The tactics had to be spot on. We could not afford one slip up. We could not afford one mistake. And also, again, I'll go back to this all the time because I say this, week in, week out. It required a very, very strong mindset. The mindset, the mentality to go there. And let's be honest, as confident as these players were, I'm sure they were, but there would have also been a degree of nervousness as well. Every emotion you can imagine, I would imagine all those players felt it just before they're about to walk out onto that pitch at Anfield, right? So to overcome all of that, brothers in arms in the trenches, all together, us against the world, that mindset that I love, that is evaporating in this day and age, to achieve what we did by 2 clear goals. Show me another club who could have done that. We did it, we did it that night, and we brought it home. So that's obviously number one. The Invincibles, to go a whole season unbeaten. People would try and downplay it and say, but Arsenal drew a lot of games. Yeah, but drawing and losing are 2 different things, my friend. Yeah. To do that in a league like this, and when people try and talk it down, it makes me think, well, you try and do it then.
Yeah, why hasn't it been done?
Yeah, you do it.
If it was that easy, at least 2 or 3 other clubs would have done it by now, but they haven't.
No, exactly. Exactly. So it's you have to. I'm not one who sort of bangs on all the time about the Invincibles and obviously what we achieved then, but when if we're talking about it now, then you have to say, I mean, it's show me another club who can do it. When you look at how good Man City have been these last several years, they've not done it. So that just shows it's not easy to do, to go the whole season. That means you've got to be on it the whole season. And that's why, Warren, that's why fans like myself, you, a lot of the guys who watch us, because we've grown up seeing that and comparing it to what we see now, right? That's why we are so hard on this club. That's why we are so hard on these players. Yeah, because to have done that and kept on it physically, mentally throughout the whole season, I tell you, that takes some bloody doing, mate. That takes, and where we've seen it, we've been spoiled, etc. It takes a special kind of player to do something like that, and we're meant to sort of tip our hat off to these players of today. Nah.
Yeah, exactly. You're 100% right, mate. And the other thing about that season as well was the fact that I think it was the year before, right? We went unbeaten for a long time, and Arsene came out and said it publicly that he thought that the team could go a whole season unbeaten. And a lot of the players got really upset with him saying it because they thought it was going to pile on added pressure to them.
Yeah.
Right. And I think they're right. I think it probably did. So that made it even harder for them to achieve it, because every bugger under the sun would have been saying, well, they ain't doing that to us. You know what I mean? So, that in itself, plus the feat of actually sustaining it for a whole season, it's just mad. It really is. Because after we won the title, I think we had won the title with about 5 games to go. Arsene wouldn't let them take their foot off the pedal because he wanted them so badly to go and the whole season unbeaten. They couldn't let up, and it was really difficult, I think, for them.
Yeah. I think that's where when you win the league with 5 games to go, it's it would have been very easy for Wenger to, just play the kids. Look, the title it's wrapped up, it's done. Save the players' fitness, and obviously just play the kids or chuck anyone in. Doesn't matter now. It doesn't, because obviously, the league's won. But to want perfection, it's perfection. And for those 5 games. Warren, that for me would have been probably the hardest point for these players. And it would have been hard throughout the season, but having those 5 games left, that's where, my God, that mentality is. How do you've won the league? There's a natural thing in you where you might switch off by 20-25% because it's done, right? So to keep that hunger up, and bear in mind as well, no other team wanted us to, to go invincible, right? So every team we would have played would have been up for it. It would have been everybody's cup final, playing against Arsenal. So to go those 5 games as well, unbeaten, that again, I mean, that takes some doing, and you just have to keep talking about that mindset and the mentality as well of the players. Because it would have been very easy to have, we're on the beach now. We're just going to get these 5 games over and done with. The title's won, it's wrapped up. Now we're thinking about where to go in the summer for a holiday. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, exactly. Because that's why I think it's such an achievement.
Yeah, big time.
Once the league title is won and you've got it in the bag, it must be a natural want to drop off. But they couldn't do that because they were going for this, elite achievement.
Yeah.
So would you, though, having said all of that, would you ever sacrifice the invincible thing for going and winning the European Cup that year?
Yeah, good question. I've seen, it's funny. I've seen so many people ask this, and I've seen so many different answers.
Because I think I would have. Because ever since I've been a kid, I've wanted to see Arsenal win the European Cup, right? And I remember when we lost that game in Barcelona, against Barcelona, in Paris, and there was 14 minutes left on the clock when they got the winner. Mate, that destroyed me. I was in a really bad depression for about 2 months after that game.
Yeah, especially when you're, a lot went against us, and like to this day, there's still a little part of me that thinks that was a little bit corrupt in that game. But if I would, I think, look, as long as the title's won, I'm not really. If the invincible thing, obviously, it's the cherry on top, right? But obviously, as long as we win the league, if it meant we lost 6-7 games, then it doesn't really matter to me as long as the league's won. But would I give up the invincible tag for the European? Then of course, you would. You would, because
it meant us losing, say, 2 games rather than going the whole season unbeaten, but could have meant we won the European Cup.
Yeah.
Then.
Of
course you would. About.
No, of course you would. Yeah, there's a lot of Arsenal fans who would disagree with us, and have the gold trophy. But no. Yeah, when it comes to Europe, if it meant us losing 2-3 games, but we won that as well, you'd take it all day long. You'd have to.
Yeah.
You'd have to. Yeah, you'd have to.
So, Diesel, watching Arsenal down the years, what would you say was your biggest disappointment watching Arsenal? What thing upset you more than anything else? I know it's quite a negative question, but it's an interesting one, I think.
No, my biggest disappointment, mate, and what infuriated me was after the Invincibles, if I'm honest with you. When Arsene Wenger broke that team up within 18 months, that was it. That to this day, that's still something I will never understand, because this is where I sort of compare Arsene to Fergie, right? This is where I do it, because I'm in my head, Fergie would never have done that. What Fergie would have done would have strengthened it even more, and he would have gone on to dominate not only the league but Europe. And we could have done that. We were that good. And Arsene Wenger, literally within 18 months, broke up a team like that. And you look at it and you think that invincible season, we had players who could play, we had pace, we had power, we had technical ability, we had skill, we had flair, we had a bit of everything. All the key ingredients, we had it. And all he had to do was build upon it. Not by getting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players in, right? But just to get another 2 or 3 top-class players, another 2 or 3 tops, right? Tops, maximum. And really, really gone for it the season after in the league and in Europe. And with a team like that, sprinkled with another 2 or 3 top class players, we literally could have dominated. And yet he didn't do that. What he did, greed took over, started selling off our best players, replaced them with these small, slight, technical players. And he just killed it for me. Absolutely killed it. And I'll never know why he did that.
No, I agree with you. I can't understand it either. But looking forward to the remainder of this season, there's not long to go, I know. But how do you think Arsenal will do in the remainder of this season? I mean, we've only got the league to play for, but what do you think is going to happen, Diesel?
Well, we see, obviously, with the game yesterday, we beat Wolves 2-0. Do you know what? I'll be honest, Rowan, I still think there's a few twists and turns to this league. There's still a part of me that thinks Man City won't win all their games. I've just got a feeling they just, I watched them yesterday against Chelsea in the semi-final, and they just look, and it's understandable, but they look leggy. They looked knackered, obviously, because of their exploits in Europe last week with Real Madrid. So I can see Man City dropping points, maybe not necessarily losing, but maybe a draw, maybe 1 or 2 draws. My issue with Arsenal is even if Man City do drop points, I don't think Arsenal are strong enough to take the advantage of that. So when I look at our running, yes, we got a tough running. But again, I just don't think, I really don't think Arsenal got the mental strength, mate. I really don't. This game yesterday against Wolves, even then, we 2-0. It was a hard-fought 2-0. We looked leggy, knackered. These players look shot. They just look knackered, mate. We haven't got the proper, strength in depth. And we've got some games coming up. A lot of Arsenal fans are dismissing Chelsea. They're dismissing Spurs. But, games like that, it's not about form. It's all about the occasion, one. It's the occasion. Exactly. Exactly, it's the occasion. And these 2 teams have got, well, Chelsea haven't got anything to play for. Spurs have got a slight chance of top 4, but the highlight of the highlight of their season is stopping us in our tracks. That's their highlight. You hear a lot of Spurs fans saying, if we get above Arsenal or if we stop them to a title, then that's our season made up, right? So it's all about the occasion, mate. And I don't think Arsenal have got the mental strength to do it. We saw that against Aston Villa. They went.
Go on, sorry, Diesel.
No, I was just going to say, in that game, they went busting the gut. So, they knew what was on the line. They saw the Liverpool result earlier, early on during the day. So that you would have thought that would have given them that extra motivation to go out there and do the business. And obviously, Man City won the day before. So Arsenal had a clear incentive to go out there and do the business. And when you look at how they played, poor performances all around. And you would have thought it was Villa going for the title, not us.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, mate. Agree with everything you just said, mate. I really do. So in order for this season to be a successful season and next season, what would need to happen at the club for you to consider it a successful season?
The only way it's a successful season is if they win the league. They have to win the league. Yeah. They have to win the league, and it's out of our hands. All they can do now is win all their remaining games and just keep their fingers crossed, hope and pray that Man City do slip. And if should that happen and we win the league, it's a successful season, right? If not, then it's not. And in terms of going forward, as you just said there, for next season, the first things first, what they got to do, they need to sack Michel. Michel has got to be sacked. He's got to go. Got to go. And if he says he loves his club as much as he does, then he'll walk. But if not, they've got to get rid of him, Warren, because he's had several bites of the cherry now. And he's got. What I would say, and people ask me this all the time. I've always said this: it's nothing personal. If it was, I'd come out and say it. You know me. I couldn't give a toss. It's not personal. And to be fair to him, he's done a lot better than what I thought he would. right? However, what I would do, I would shake his hand and say, look, thank you for what you've done for us, right? You've got us to a certain level, but for Arsenal to take the next step and that next level, you know, we need a manager now who's going to come in and take us to that next level, which is the promised land. And Michel's not it.
No, exactly. That's what I think. And for me, I don't like the fella, mate. I've said it a couple of times. I actually really dislike him, right? But that's just my personal opinion. I don't like the way he treats players. I don't like the arrogance. There's lots of things I don't like about him. But when I sit here and I look at him and I compare him with the likes of George and some of the great managers this club's had in the past, mate, he ain't the one. Do you know what I mean? He's not. He hasn't got that aura about him like George had. Or, you know, even the likes of Terry Neal, who didn't have that much success. He still had an aura about him, and Don Howe and these people, they knew what Arsenal was all about. He hasn't got a clue. And when an ex-chief executive of the club comes out and says, oh, I'd have to take him in a side room and tell him to tone it down a bit, that tells me that he really is not the one. And then I look at other managers who are serial winners, the likes of Pep and Ancelotti and Diego Simeone and all these other elite managers, and I just think, no, we shouldn't be having a manager who this is his first job. I mean, let's not get away from it. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
So, if you could change, I think I know what the answer to this is going to be.
Yeah.
If you could change one thing at Arsenal, what would it be?
Yeah, be the manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, the manager. Yeah, I'm not. You know, a lot of Arsenal fans, you know, they go on about the Cronkies and that, and you know, for me, no one can say Arsenal haven't spent money. They can't, right? You know, we have. We've spent money, you know, and what kills me is this 700 million that he spent or whatever it is, right? In fact, I'd make a bold statement now. If Unai Emery had that money to spend, we'd have won something by now. And I genuinely, hand on heart, believe that, right? We let go of the wrong manager, you know, and when you see like what he's doing now, you know, that's no fluke. He's a good, very good, tactically astute manager, right? But people forget we are Arsenal, you know. So when we reel off certain names and, you know, and they won't come to us. Well, why not? We're Arsenal. Yeah. Why not? You know, and again, you have to question a lot of these Arsenal fans. You know, I say this all the time, mate. They don't realise just how big we are. Yeah. You know, we are a big club. You know, I look at us as like a sleeping giant. I think that's probably the best term you can use for Arsenal at the minute. Right? They are, honestly, mate, they are a sleeping giant. You know, the infrastructure is all there, right? The stadium is there, you know, the money's there, you know, the worldwide, you know, the worldwide coverage is there, you know, the fan support worldwide is there. We can go anywhere in the world and pack it out. Fact. You know, people talk about Man City. We're a bigger club than Man City by far. You know, so, you know, we are literally the third biggest club in the country. That's a fact. And also add to that as well, we're in London. We're in London. It's an attraction. I'm sorry, it is. You know, it's got a big pull to it, right? So when, you know, there shouldn't be anyone out there within reason who we can't go out and get. You know, the thing is with Arsenal, they won't pay the money for a manager, you know, and this is what I'm saying. But the manager, you know, Mikel, I always say this, you know, you've heard me use this, mate. It's like I always imagine a canteen, right? Where you've got exactly. Yeah, and mate, I swear to God, this is how I look at it, right? You've got a canteen and you've got the top table right at the front, right? And on that top table, that's where all the elite managers dine. That's where they sit down on, right? That top table up there. So you'll come in, you'll walk in, you'll see Pep there, Conte, Ancelotti, Simeone. You'll see managers of that caliber, or as Delboy would say, caliber. You'll see all them there. Yeah. Michel walks in. He couldn't. Do you honestly think he could sit on that table alongside them? And no, he'd look out of place, Warren.
Yeah, he would.
No, he couldn't. I'm sorry. No. And this is the thing. Yeah. That's what Arsenal need. They need a manager who's got a bit of pull. Yeah. A manager who can pick up the phone to any of these world-class players and say, I want you, come to me, come to the Arsenal. Yeah. Because we've got an Ancelotti, a Conte, a Simeone, a Pep, a Klopp. Yeah. When you're at home, like that footballer, with his wife and his kids, and he's having his dinner, and the phone goes, and the missus answers it, and she says, "Oh, darling, babes, it's Pep on the phone." Pep, you're running to that phone. You are not saying, "Oh, I'll call him back. I'm eating my dinner." No. Pep's on the phone. You will leave whatever it is you've got in front of you, and you will walk to that phone, and you will take that call. You know why? Because it's Pep. Because it's Klopp. Because it's Simeone. Yeah. Michelle rings you. Michelle will be lucky if you call him back later on that night. And that's the difference, mate. That's the difference.
See, the thing is, what you've just said, I agree with it. But there's one thing about the Cronkies that upsets me, right? Is they're not holding Arteta to account. Far as I can say, I don't know for sure if that's the case. But that's what I see from the outside looking in. I get the impression that no one is holding into account.
Right,
so
no.
when things start going tits up, no one's sitting there going, right, what was that all about? Why did that happen? What was this for? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, mate. Yeah, and you're right. You're right. In an ideal world, I wouldn't want the Cronkies, mate. I think where I'm coming from is in my head. The fans can affect change with regards to the manager. I don't think the fans can affect change when it comes to the owners. And I think that for me, no matter what we do, no matter what happens, the Cronkies are here to stay. They're not going. It's too much of a cash cow. And I've said it before, mate, I genuinely do believe this Super League is coming at some point.
No, I do.
It will come at some point, and there's no way the Cronkies are going to want to sell Arsenal while that's still floating about in the background, right? It's just too much money. So I've resigned to the fact that they're here. Nothing we can do, right? They are here, right? However, when it comes to the manager, now that's the one thing where I look at and think, yes, now that's something we could change, right?
Great.
or we could affect, right? So that's why I'm more on the manager than what I am on the owners. But yeah, mate, Arsenal are a club who just want top four. You know, it's all about money. It's not a sport; it's a business now. It's money. And as far as they're aware, Josh and his Stan, as far as they're aware, Arteta's doing his job. He's getting them in the top four. You know, so.
I was kicking off in one of my news shows about it the other day, right? And this German lad, he's a Dortmund fan, put a comment in the video, and he said, the thing is, it's a very American attitude, like this business of not winning the title, but just going for top four. So he says, I'm not surprised that Arsenal are like that. Something along those lines. That wasn't verbatim what he said, but that was the context that I got from it. He was saying that it's typical American ownership attitude. And I was thinking, well, he's probably got a point, because that's what I'm seeing. They're not interested. Every time, Diesel, look at it, the seasons, the last 3 years, every single time we qualified for European competition the next season, that's when the collapse starts. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I just think as soon as they get European football, that's it. We've done it. That's our targets for the season. End of story. And they just down tools.
Yeah,
I think that.
No. I totally agree. I don't necessarily believe that to be the case with Michel, though, because one thing I will say about him, I will say this: he wants to win it. I don't think he's one of them. I might be wrong, but I don't think he's one of them who's content with top four. I see a manager there who's desperate to win. He's desperate to get his name up in lights, and to be, the first manager in God knows how long to do it. I just don't think he's good enough.
Yeah,
and I think with the owners, mate, it's very similar to what's going on at the moment with Chelsea. Because Chelsea are now sort of dealing with the kind of nonsense that we have been. where, you know, these American owners who are more concerned with money than what they are winning. And I think what you're seeing there is a massive difference between what they had with Roman, because Roman, do you honestly think Lampard and Poch would have got these jobs if Roman was in charge? Roman would have got the best. He would have paid, you know, top dollar to have got the best managers in, you know, in the door. Yeah. And with us, we get Pep's number 2 from Man City. Now, you know, at the time, and you know, people can change their tunes now, but at the time, there's no one other than young Terence. There is no one on this earth who wanted this man. Right? Fact, no one. Right? And he said, you know,
I still to this day do not understand why Terry wanted him. Whenever I asked him about it, I remember him sitting there. He would either change the subject or he would just say, "Oh, I just wanted to change." And I'm just you could have lots of change with lots of different managers. Why him?
Because to Terence, you know, he just sees a man who's wears a Gucci jacket and who's like a bit of a salt, you know. And I think that's what it is. I do, mate. I do. I just think, you know, those gay tendencies or whatever it is. I just think, you know, he's got a thing about him. I do. I don't know what else it could be, you know.
So I agree with you. But look, Diesel, I've got one last question for you.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a bit off key, but I think you're going to like it. Right. So basically, if you could have a group of 4 people from the world of football, current or past, living or dead, to join you for a drink or dinner, who would those 4 people be?
Oh man, that's a good question.
People think it's a bit mad, but I like it. It gives an interesting insight, I think.
From the world of football, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or you can choose other people not from the world of football if it makes it easier for you.
No. Let's make it interesting. Let's keep it football. Oh, I'll tell you what, I would. In fact, all right, I would go Maradona.
Yeah.
I'd go Cristiano Ronaldo.
Mm-hmm.
I would go.
George.
Oh God. Yeah, go on. I'll do George Graham.
Herbert Chapman. I'm just throwing names out at you.
Nah, I'd go. Oh, I would go. Joe, I want to say Ian Wright, but I just, as a pundit now, he just annoys me, so I wouldn't say him anymore.
But the thing is, I know someone who's met Ian Wright, and they said he was an absolute gentleman. So if you want to put Ian Wright on there, it might be because he's been paid to say that. That's what I think.
Yeah, but that's why I wouldn't want to invite him. You know what? I'd probably go Tony Adams, you know.
Okay. So we got Tony Adams, Diego Maradona, Cristiano Ronaldo, and George Graham.
Yeah.
Yeah, you happy with that?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Diesel, mate, thank you so much for that. Do you want to quickly give a quick summary about why you've chosen each one?
Yeah. Diego, I'll start with Maradona. So for me, everyone talks about Messi, and I love Messi, right? But don't get me wrong. My personal opinion, nobody touches Maradona. And obviously, you know, from what I've seen, I mean, the guy. I talk a lot about players. I have a great deal of admiration for players who can win games on their own, who have the ability to win games on their own. And I think a lot of fans have got, you know, short memories now, and we talk about the players of today. Whereas I look at the players and I think, you know, of past, And I think to be that good, I mean, our pitches now are like carpets, but back then they weren't. Back then, a tackle, you could tackle, and now you touch a player, you'll get a booking. Back then it weren't like that. A lot of things went. Maradona weren't the biggest, and to have that sort of ability to go to Napoli, who weren't a great team, and he dragged them up on his own. For me, he's the best ever, so to be in the presence of someone like that, and all these questions I'd want to ask, and just to be in the presence of somebody who I consider to be the best footballer ever to have graced this sport. That's why I would invite him. Cristiano Ronaldo, what I love about Ronaldo is that mindset, that obsession to be the best, that obsession, when people tell me, training's over and 4 hours, he'll stay behind. Everyone goes home and he stays. He just put, those free kicks, just perfecting those free kicks, whatever it is, going home and having a masseuse, a chef, or this, or that. That dedication to want to be the best. Because, sometimes, and this was the thing that happened with Ozil. We won the World Cup and Ozil lost his passion. He won the ultimate. He's done it. He's won the biggest thing ever in football. And as a result, the hunger went. Ronaldo, to do it season in and season out, to come back the next season and still have that hunger, that desire. The interview he did with Piers Morgan when he was at Man United, it's only now people are looking at that thinking, oh my God, he actually had a point. And if you remember on my channel, I always defended Ronaldo. Everyone said, oh, he's finished, he's this, he's that, he's a nuisance in that team. Well, hang on a minute, take out his goals, you guys would have been relegated. Yes. Right? So, you know what I mean? So, let's have a bit of respect. This is one of the best ever players to have played for your club. Right? And he's speaking truths. The thing is, we're in that world now, Warren, where people don't like hearing the truth. It's only now that he's gone and you see what all this nonsense that's happening at Man United, people are now looking back and thinking, my God, you know what? Maybe he had something, right? It's like Mourinho, when he got second with that Man United side, and he said that to get second with a side like this is my greatest ever achievement. And at the time, we all thought, what's he talking about? His greatest ever achievement. He's won trophies. Now we're like, oh, gotcha. Because there's that bad. You got a bad team like that to second. People only start to put two and two together after the event, right? But going back to Ronaldo, mate, I don't know many people who have a mindset like that obsession, and that is what it is. It's an obsession. Him and Messi against each other and kept at the top for that many years. I would love to have a sit down with Ronaldo and just try and get a little taste of his psyche, just to try and get inside his mind and just find out where that comes from and how do you keep it? How do you keep it going, right? So that, I love stuff like that, mate. That keeps me intrigued for hours, days. I could listen to that all day. So he's one. George Graham, wasn't initially going to go with George, only because I've met him. Yeah, I mean, there's so many stories that you hear from, obviously, his time as a manager that, obviously no social media back then. So a lot of stuff went on, obviously, which we're not privy to. But, you'd have to have George there just to ask questions and, obviously, get stories on what really went on behind the scenes and, talk about the bung and all that. And, so obviously that's why I would invite George. And who was the other one I said? Oh, Tony Adams.
Yeah,
Mr. Arsenal, Mr. Arsenal, and he's one who sort of, he's not like a lot of these other pundits. He's an honest bloke as well. And I'd like to get his take on. I'd like to ask him, what is your honest assessment of these players of today? Because I'm sure he'd tell me the truth. So
I reckon he'd have a few of them up by the throat in the dressing room.
Yeah, exactly.
I would tell you, I don't know if you've heard this. Could do a Des O'Connor bit now. Tell you a story about Diego Maradona. Right? He went to Napoli because it was the poorest part of Italy and they got discriminated by the rest of the Italians, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. He chose them deliberately. he also, when he went there, short time after he signed for Napoli, right, he found out there was this charity game going ahead for this kid who had cancer or something and he was dying. And the club said to him, no, you can't do that. What happens if you get injured? It was on like a little beaten up practice pitch somewhere, muddy and whatnot. And he said, no, I'm doing it. I don't care. And he went along and he played in this practice match for this kid. And they raised God knows how much money just because he was there. Do you know what I mean? And that, for me, sums him up. Do you know what I mean? For me, he's a legend. I love him. He's my hero. And I don't handle that label out easily. I absolutely love the guy, Diesel. I love his attitude. I love the way he talks and everything. I just like. And the other thing is that Arsenal nearly signed him.
No, we could do a stream on that. Like if we could name an 11, an 11 who almost signed for us.
Yeah, and the reason he didn't come was because of the Falklands War. I'm to this day, I'm still gutted because we would have won the lot, mate, with him in the team. Imagine that team with him, and Liam Brady, and Jesus. I remember I was telling Del Boy once about it, and he got really upset. Like the two of them playing in the same team, it would have been madness. But there you go. So yeah, listen, Diesel. This has been absolutely wild. I mean, it's like a dream come true for me to have you on.
I'll behave.
I absolutely loved it. And I've just got one more thing to do. Now, before I do that, I want you to talk about your channel again for people.
Subscribe. I'm not asking a lot. Subscribe, and obviously hit that notification bell whenever I do a stream. If you could click the like button, because for anyone who doesn't know, YouTube is all about algorithms, and obviously the more likes we get, the more exposed our streams are. So it does help us, believe it or not. It really does. So yeah, that's why you see a lot of YouTubers mentioning that throughout their streams, because it really does help us. But yeah, all things Arsenal. I talk about life in general. I talk about films, videos, TV series I'm watching. I talk about birds. I talk about, this, that, the other. Life in general, to be honest with you, and I think there's, I don't know all the answers, but I just give you my take. Obviously, I've lived a little. I've seen a lot of things, some good, some bad. And sometimes I like to sort of, people who watch me can sort of relate to a lot of the things I'm saying. They know I'm not stupid. I'm not one of these people who've just come off the boat, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
The thing is as well, just to say as well, Diesel has me go on his channel as well, talking about conspiracy theories and paranormal. All that sort of stuff. And it's wild. It really is. I know it's not it doesn't float everyone's boat, but there's been some good shows on there, I'm telling you.
Yeah. So, listen, like I say, mate, and you do get that. I don't so much get them anymore, but I think when we first started doing that, you did get a few comments sort of saying, well, this is an Arsenal channel, why are you doing this? But I've always made a point of saying, look, this is what we're doing. We're doing a little sideline on the channel where one's going to be, doing streams every now and again about paranormal activity, conspiracy theories, etc., etc. It's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. You don't have to watch it, but there is a market for it. It's something I'm very interested in. And for the people out there who aren't brainwashed and who do try and find reason and find research the facts on your own. Don't just put a telly on and believe everything you see. Don't buy a newspaper and believe everything you read. Make your own mind up, because there's things that go on in this world that would absolutely shock us to the core. All right, and that's why Warren and I, we have a similar interest in this, and that's why we like to talk about it and do streams on it and gather people's opinions, etc. So that's why we do it. But look, I can appreciate it, but my channel is very much a mixed bag. It's not just Arsenal. I like to do a bit of everything.
So I mean, the thing is, I watched something the other day with this guy, American guy, and he used to be in their. He used to be a medic in, like, consultant surgeon in their accident and emergency department, right? And he did this stream about UFOs. Jesus, Diesel. It's terrified the life out of me. It really has. The stuff that he was coming out with was absolute madness. And, like, not good madness either. It was terrifying. But, yeah, Diesel lets me do it, and I love doing it, and it is really wild. So, mate, please make sure you go and subscribe to his channel, because, like I said, in the minute that I went on that channel the first time, right up till today, I just, like, find it incredible. And this guy, he hasn't said this yet, but I'm going to say it. Everything he does when he's on that channel is completely unscripted, right? He doesn't come on there like I do with a script. I've got one here now, making sure I don't forget any of my questions, right? He goes on, no script, no nothing, and he can talk for 2 or 3 hours. And I think it's unbelievable. It is such an achievement, because it is sometimes can be quite daunting. Like, just sitting in front of a camera, and people think, well, why is it daunting? But it is, because you don't know how many hundreds or thousands of people are going to be watching you. But he pulls it off, and it is brilliant. Honestly, if you haven't subscribed to him already, you're missing out. So make sure you go and do it.
Yeah, nice one, Wes. Yeah, mate, you know, listen, I'll be honest with you. 5 minutes before I'm due to go live, I get nervous. I still do, like, to this day. And when you think of how many I've done, you'd think you wouldn't, but you do, because there's, you know, what if there's an awkward pause, or what if I lose my train of thought, or what if, you know, but, you know, what makes it easy for me is I've got a really good and loyal chat room. And one of my biggest fears whenever I do a stream is, what if I go live and there's no one in the chat? You know, that's one of my biggest fears, mate. That's because that is a proper egg on your face moment. That's embarrassing. It is. It's embarrassing. I've seen some other channels start off, and, you know, they're sort of half an hour into their stream, and they've got about 3-4 people in their chat, you know, which means it's 3 or 4 comments. It's, you know, and you think to yourself, blimey, what's the point? You know, just end the stream now. You're talking to no one, right? So, you know, look, and, you know, so obviously I'm thankful and I'm lucky. But I feed off the channel. The guys in the chat, I feed off the chat room. So I think that's another reason why I can go for, you know, 2 or 3 hours. I mean, I chat for Britain anyway. If I'm passionate about something, I'll just chat about it.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people are used to, you know, biting like their tongue and not sort of giving their opinion, sitting on the fence. I don't like people like that. I like people who, you know, stay true to what you believe, and people might not like you, but they sure as hell are going to, you know, respect you. And I think that's the difference. Whether people like me or not, you know, I couldn't care less, Warren, but they have to at least respect me, mate, because they know I'm saying what I genuinely believe. And I know it won't go down well with the chat or people who are watching, because it might be a controversial thing, but I'll always tell you what I believe, and I'll always back up why I think that. You know, so
yeah, that's why I like it, because I rate people like that. I don't like people who come out with crap, and you don't. Never.
Yeah.
Never once have I ever heard you say anything and think, no, he's talking rubbish.
Exactly.
No. Anyway, Diesel, just to end, I've prepared this for you. I'm gonna send it to you as a picture file.
Oh, mate, top man, I love that. Look at that. Sick. Come on.
Anyway, so listen, guys, please make sure you subscribe to Diesel. Please make sure you put a like on this video, and please don't forget to subscribe if you're new. I hope Diesel and I hope you've enjoyed listening to Diesel's stories, because I have. I think it's been absolutely excellent. So thanks ever so much for watching. Please remember to look after yourselves, your friends, your families, and your loved ones. Stay curious, ask questions, and remember to share some love and kindness around the world. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care. Bye for now.
Cheers, guys.
You know what they say? Some things in life are bad. They can really make you mad. Other things just make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on life's gristle, don't grumble, give a whistle. And this'll help things turn out for the best. And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life. If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, don't be silly chumps. Just purse your lips and whistle, that's the thing. And always look on the bright side of life. Come on. Always look on the right side of life. For life is quite absurd, and death's the final word. You must always face the curtain with a bow. Forget about your scene, give the audience a grin. Enjoy it, it's your last chance anyhow. So always look on the bright side of death. Just before you draw your terminal breath. Life's a piece of shit when you look at it. Life's a laugh and death's a joke, it's true. You'll see it's all a show, keep 'em laughing as you go. Just remember that the last laugh is on you. And always